Chapter 33. When Yi Bing arrived at the grove beside the sports field, Jiang Xiu was already waiting there. She couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. You came really fast. No matter how arrogant our spiritual cultivation is, we still have to be humble when borrowing money. We need to show some sincerity when we ask for help. After that he shamelessly added, Sister. Yi Bing's face turned red again, but she said, Sigh, it's not easy. Now you know how to call people. Sister, did you bring the money? The next moment, he revealed his traitorous face. Yi Bing said angrily, In order to lend you money, I specially went to the bank. As she spoke, she took out the money from her bag and stuffed it into Jiang Xiu's hands. The grove beside the sports field was usually empty, but coincidentally, it was just outside the student union office window. Cheng Lingsu happened to be standing by the window. It could be said that she was separated from Jiang Xiu and Yi Bing by the window. Su, what are you looking at? Cheng Lingsu looked like a thief who had been caught. She nervously turned around and said, No, nothing. Ouyang Qian and Li Dan walked over curiously and saw Jiang Xiu and Yi Bing through the window. Jiang Xiu was counting money. So it's him. I heard that Yi Bing seems to be in a relationship with him. I didn't believe it at first, but it turns out to be true. Yi Bing is really stupid. How could she fall for Jiang Xiu? She's even throwing herself at him. Li Dan also said with disdain, That's right. He's just a poor guy who runs a fruit stall at home. He can only fight a little. But now can fighting be used as food? I really feel bad for Yi Bing. He and Yi Bing have that kind of relationship? Cheng Lingsu asked in surprise. Yes, haven't you heard? Cheng Lingsu shook her head, but her expression was a little strange. I guess Jiang Xiu will be kicked off by Yi Bing sooner or later. Everyone knows about Yi Bing's family. She is the daughter of an aristocratic family. She is an authentic beauty. How can Jiang Xiu be worthy of her? He will be kicked off sooner or later. That's right. Yi Bing is still young. When she goes to university, she will understand what a truly outstanding boy is. She spoke as if she was very old. At this moment, Yi Wenchen and the others returned. Lin Shu was discharged from the hospital after 3 days, while Yi Wenchen was hospitalized for more than a week. His handsome face was still a little swollen. I'm back. Ouyang and the other girls went up to greet him with a smile. The girls who were hospitalized had already visited them and were very clear about their situation, so they didn't need to be particularly concerned. In fact, they didn't want to mention the matter of Yi Wenchen being beaten up, including the experience of the girls. What bad luck. Don't mention it. Let's not go to such uncivilized places in the future. As he spoke, Yi Wenchen took out an invitation and boasted, I'm here to attend the Ancient Magical Weapon Appreciation Conference. Are any of you beauties interested? This is a rare opportunity. The girls didn't reply. You guys just don't understand good things. The price of this invitation is 100,000. It's said that the item being sold is a magical weapon, a treasure left behind by the gods in the mortal world. It has magical effects and is of a higher grade than any other jewelry. When Yi Wenchen said this, the girl's interest was piqued. Is that true? Yi Wenchen said, If you want such an invitation, no matter how much it costs, even if it's priced at 100,000, normal people wouldn't be able to buy it. Do you think that such a high-class event would be fake? When the time comes, all the famous people in Jiang City, and even the provincial capital will come. This is a gathering of the upper class. The girl's eyes lit up. Then we really have to go and take a look. Su, what are you looking at? Yi Wenchen noticed that Cheng Lingsu's gaze was more focused on the window. He curiously walked over and saw Jiang Xiu and Yi Bing outside. He frowned. Isn't that Yi Bing? Why is she with Jiang Xiu? He now saw Jiang Xiu as a thorn in his side and blamed all the humiliation he suffered in the entertainment city on Jiang Xiu. He chose to ignore Jiang Xiu. He felt that with his status, if he were to argue with Jiang Xiu, it would be praising him and degrading his own status. Su, do you want to go? Someone like Jiang Xiu would never have the chance to see such a godly treasure in his entire life. God was so illusory, but he really shrouded the world. Cheng Lingsu looked back and smiled. Of course I'm going. Of course I'm going to see the treasures left behind by God. It was said that humans were the descendants of the Protoss, but they were abandoned by God and left behind. Of course, these were all legends passed down from the ancient times. Whether God really existed or not, there was no way to prove it. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw that Jiang Xiu and Yi Bing had finished their meeting. When they left, Cheng Lingsu said, "I'm going out for a while." "Su, where are you going?" After Jiang Xiu borrowed the money, he was walking to the school dormitory when a beautiful figure appeared in front of him. He wasn't surprised at all. It wasn't strange for them to meet in the same school. His eyes were colder than usual. He had already signed the agreement. He and Cheng Lingsu had nothing to do with each other anymore. In the past, the two would pretend that they didn't know each other and pass by each other. But this time, Cheng Lingsu blocked Jiang Xiu's way. Jiang Xiu changed direction and planned to pass by. Cheng Lingsu also moved and blocked Jiang Xiu's way. Jiang Xiu looked up and asked, "What's the matter?" "Didn't you see the contract?" Cheng Lingsu said lightly, "I saw the contract. I didn't come to you for that." Jiang Xiu said, "What's the matter?" Cheng Lingsu's clear eyes looked directly at Jiang Xiu. The boy in front of her seemed to be getting further and further away from the boy in her impression. He was becoming more and more unfamiliar. The Jiang Xiu in the past gave her a feeling of being a coward and had low self-esteem. But the Jiang Xiu in front of her was full of confidence. His arrogance was far from Yi Wenqin's. Although she didn't know where his confidence came from, it was undeniable that a confident boy was still charming. Moreover, Jiang Xiu's appearance seemed to have changed. His face and facial features became more and more angular. In the past, Jiang Xiu's eyes were clear and clean with a bit of shyness. But now, Jiang Xiu's eyes were very deep, like an unfathomable abyss. These weren't Cheng Lingsu's misconceptions. His temperament changed because of his experiences. And after Jiang Xiu's Protoss awakened, his appearance would also change constantly. It was inevitable that he would become more and more like a god. But no matter how he changed in Cheng Lingsu's eyes, Jiang Xiu was still Jiang Xiu. As long as her parents didn't change, then he would never change. Cheng Lingsu said, "I hope you can recognize yourself. You and Yi Bing are not from the same world." Jiang Xiu's voice was calm and firm. "You stopped me to tell me this." Cheng Lingsu said, "Yes. Yi Bing's family isn't any worse than mine. I hope you can wake up and stop having such unrealistic dreams. I hope you can recognize yourself and know what kind of girl is suitable for you. Blindly trying to climb up the social ladder will only cause you to fall." Cheng Lingsu didn't like Jiang Xiu, and she believed that Yi Bing definitely didn't like him either. Not to mention, there were also family factors. She and Jiang Xiu didn't have the pressure of their parents, but she still wanted to get rid of Jiang Xiu. Yi Bing still had the pressure of her parents. How could Yi Bing's parents accept their daughter marrying a fruit stall owner? Jiang Xiu smiled coldly, and a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. "Do I need you to teach me?" Cheng Lingsu frowned. "You still don't want to listen?" "That's all I have to say. Jiang Xiu, you're on your own." After saying that, Cheng Lingsu brushed past Jiang Xiu with her princess-like arrogance. Her words were like the condescension of a superior. The evening breeze gently blew her beautiful hair, and it emitted a moving fragrance. Her back was very beautiful, and it caused the surrounding scenery to dim. "Cheng Lingsu, you will never understand what kind of existence I am." "Hello, is this Mr. Jiang?" Jiang Xiu said. "Who are you?" His tone was still genteel. He was used to speaking like this for more than 3,000 years, and he couldn't change it in a short time. "Why are you looking for me?" After confirming that it was Jiang Xiu, the other party became very excited. "Mr. Jiang, I'm Tang Wenchong. I don't know you." He directly hung up. As soon as he hung up, a text message came in. "Mr. Jiang, I'm really sorry for being presumptuous. I'm Tang Zhenshan's grandson. My name is Tang Wenchong. I still remember that on Chongming Mountain, when the car crashed off the cliff, it was you who saved it." Seeing this text message, Jiang Xiu remembered. It was the young man who followed Tang Zhenshan. After a while, the phone call came in again. "It's you. Why are you looking for me?" Tang Wenchong said. "It's like this. My grandfather organized a magic tool appraisal convention and specially invited Mr. Jiang to attend. Chapter 34. Jiang Xiu was slightly surprised. He had never shown his magic in front of the Tang family. Why would they invite him to the Ancient Magic Weapon Appraisal Conference? After thinking about it, he understood. The Tang family probably wanted to be on good terms with him. After all, Jiang Xiu's spiritual cultivation ability was there for all to see. Even Lin Junbei was scared witless by him. But Tang Jinshan's treatment of his benefactor had already made him dislike the Tang family. He said coldly, "I'm not interested." "Don't be like that, Mr. Jiang." Seeing Jiang Xiu reject him, Tang Wencheng was a little anxious. This was a task entrusted to him by the old master. He had patted his chest and promised that he would definitely be able to invite Jiang Xiu. In this ancient magic weapon appraisal conference, there will be many mysterious ancient swords and the like. If you like something, the Tang family will naturally offer it to you with both hands. Of course, Mr. Jiang naturally wouldn't care about such a small thing. But if Mr. Jiang is lucky enough to discover the mystery of the ancient magic weapon and obtain its inheritance, who knows? Jiang Xiu sneered in his heart. There were countless immortal cultivation methods in his mind, and they were all top grade. Even if there were some ancient inheritance, it wouldn't be enough to catch his eye. "I'm not interested." He still refused coldly. Seeing that Jiang Xiu was about to hang up, Tang Wencheng hurriedly said, Don't, Mr. Jiang. We definitely won't let you go home empty-handed. As long as you're willing to come, how about a 1,000,000 appearance fee?" Jiang Xiu laughed loudly. He was extremely ignorant and stupid. He didn't know that spiritual cultivation had given up 10 million to chop off one of Tang Jinshan's arms. Hearing Jiang Xiu's laughter, and the anger in it, Tang Wencheng was so scared that his legs turned to jelly. For a powerhouse like Jiang Xiu, using money was a great insult. Who knew that the situation would suddenly change? 1,000,000? Yes. Tang Wencheng said nervously. 1,000,000. If Mr. Jiang thinks it's not enough, we can add more. The Tang family sincerely invites Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu laughed out loud once again. You actually want to use money to persuade me? You can add more? Yes. Tang Wenzong was so nervous that his palms were sweating. As long as you are willing to come, you can set the price. Jiang Xiu raised his head and looked at the clouds in the sky. His eyes were filled with endless pride. What kind of loneliness was this? When you were in need of money, there was someone begging to give you money. Sigh, what a sin. Although you are very ignorant and foolish, but it does sound quite sincere. As the son of Tang Jinshan, Tang Wencheng was not stupid. He was so excited that he almost cried. Thank you, Mr. Jiang. I will go to Second High immediately to pick you up." After the incident with Lin Junbei, Grandpa Tang told him that Jiang Xiu's martial arts cultivation was above Chu Tiannan's. Even Lin Junbei was scared out of his wits. What kind of monster was this? Before coming, Dong had vowed that Mr. Jiang would never come. Now that he had been invited, how could he not be excited? Yes. Unfortunately, when Tang Wencheng arrived, there was almost no one in the school. Such a big luxury car came to pick up Jiang Xiu, but there was not a single audience. It was really disappointing. "Mr. Jiang." Tang Wencheng got out of the Rolls-Royce. He was in a suit and looked gentle. When he saw Jiang Xiu wearing clothes that were not even worth 300 yuan, and was not even 18 years old, he was a little absent-minded. Was this young man really as powerful as Grandpa said? Would he make a mistake? "Please." Jiang Xiu glanced at him and got in the car. The identification of ancient artifacts was led by the Tang family, but the real sponsor was Wanji's Qin Weiping. The venue was set at the Baden Club, not far from Wanji's Guangqing project. When they passed by Renhe Road, Jiang Xiu saw the traffic police blocking the road ahead. He couldn't help but ask, "What's going on ahead?" Tang Wencheng said, "Mr. Jiang, you don't know yet. Wanji Group's forced demolition of the temple angered the gods, and supernatural incidents are frequent. Now when night falls, there are bound to be traffic accidents on Renhe Road. The government had no choice but to block the road with the excuse of road repair." Angered the gods? Tang Wencheng said with a smile. Yes, many masters were invited, but they couldn't do anything. So everyone guessed that it was not evil, but angered the gods of the ancient temple. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and didn't comment. The Baden Club arrived at time. Tang Wencheng and Jiang Xiu got out of the car. As far as the eye could see, there were many people walking into the club. Everyone was dressed to the nines. The men were in suits, and the women were in eye-catching evening gowns. They all had an invitation card in their hands. Mr. Jiang, please. After entering the club, Tang Wencheng was familiar with many people. When they saw Tang Wencheng, they naturally tried to curry favor with him. Jiang Xiu, who was dressed shabbily, was elegantly ignored. Jiang Xiu didn't care. You do what you need to do. I'll take a walk. This spiritual cultivation trip was just for show. To be precise, it was to earn that 1 million yuan. As for the other things, Jiang Xiu didn't care about them. At most, he would see if there were any ancient artifacts. If there were, he would take 1 or 2. He also needed some natural treasures to speed up his cultivation. There were groups of 3 to 5 people in the club. For people in the upper class, networking was very important. Attending such a banquet could expand one's network. It could bring great convenience for business and other things in the future. Of course, it was also a great opportunity for the younger generation to appear. Look, that's Xiao Zhixiang from the Bailuan de supermarket chain. Director Wu of Tianrun Pharmaceuticals. There are even foreigners. He seems to be the CEO of Mercedes-Benz. Ouying Qian's eyes were shining. She was so excited that her hands were dancing. Wow, today's event is so high. No wonder young Master Chun said that the invitation card costs 100,000 yuan. Li Dan also said excitedly, "It's the right choice to come today." Is that young master by phone? Cheng Lingsu looked over curiously when she heard that. She thought that the man in the white suit was suave and handsome. More importantly, this young master was one of the top talents among the younger generation of Rivertown's upper class. Daily I dared to touch Yi Wenchen without hesitation, but he didn't dare to say no in front of young Master Bai. Why? Do you want to get to know me? Yi Wenchen pushed up his glasses and carefully observed Cheng Lingsu. He was afraid that his goddess would fall for Bai Feng. This young master was too outstanding. Su Su. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Cheng Lingsu turned around and saw a beautiful woman in a black evening gown. Cheng Lingsu's face became unnatural. Mom, it's really you. Mom thought I was seeing things. The woman was Cheng Lingsu's biological mother, Sun Xiaohong. According to the rules, there was still self-study today. Cheng Lingsu was considered to have skipped class and was caught by her mother on the spot. Of course, she felt unnatural. However, Sun Xiaohong didn't show any displeasure on her face. How did you get in? It's hard to get in here. Even she had to ask a friend of a friend to get an invitation card. After all, this was an ancient weapon appraisal event. It wasn't a commercial event. Cheng Lingsu quickly ran over and held her hand. My friend had an invitation card, so I came to join in the fun. Xiaohong, is this your little daughter? Sun Xiaohong had 2 middle-aged female friends beside her. Yes. Sun Xiaohong looked at her daughter who was becoming more and more beautiful. She said, children nowadays are really hard to control. They have classes at night, but they actually skipped class to attend the banquet. Cheng Lingsu naughtily stuck out her tongue. Yi Wenchen and Lin Shu had never seen such a cute side of her. They were stunned. Sun Xiaohong scratched her nose and said, now that you've grown up and have connections, you can even attend the banquet yourself. Her words were reproachful, but her tone was full of praise. The 2 friends beside her were envious. It was so difficult to get an invitation card. The second daughter of the Chung family was amazing. Your daughter is really capable, Sun Xiaohong said. She only knows how to fool around. Yi Wenchen puffed out his chest. He was the one who got the invitation card, so he wanted to show off. My child also wants to come, but unfortunately, she doesn't have an invitation card. Sun Xiaohong saw that her friend's eyes were full of envy and felt even more proud. Even Cheng Lingsu felt that she was proud. The way she looked at Yi Wenchen became gentler. However, in the next moment, Sun Xiaohong and Cheng Lingsu's smiles froze on their faces. Far away from them, at the table, a young man dressed like a roadside stall was eating pastries. Jiang Xiu? Why is he here? Chapter 35. Ouyang Qian was the first to recognize Jiang Xiu. Yi Wenchen and the others were shocked. It really was Jiang Xiu. That's not right. How did he get in? Even Sun Xiaohong had to ask a friend of a friend to get an invitation. How could he, a son of a fruit stall, enter such a high-class event? It didn't make sense. Looking at the people present, if they weren't high-ranking officials, they were business tycoons. Even the waiters who walked past him were university students. Their clothes were better than his. Standing in the clubhouse, Jiang Xiu was as eye-catching as a beggar entering a restaurant. Jiang Xiu, how did you get in? Ouyang Qian and Li Dan went up to welcome him. Jiang Xiu stuffed the cake in his hand into his mouth. God elementalists consumed blood essence and were especially prone to hunger. Moreover, he was in the early stages of God elementalism. Like a newborn baby, he needed a lot of food. Half of the cake was stuffed into his mouth, and half of his face was swollen. He looked even more unsightly. I'm here to earn money. What about you guys? Jiang Xiu was surprised to see them. There was self-study tonight, and they were all good students. Why would they skip class to attend a banquet? We can get to know a lot of high-ranking officials at a banquet like this. For our future. Before Ouyang Qian could finish, Yi Wenchen walked over with his hands in his pockets and interrupted. Qian, why are you explaining so much to him? He doesn't understand. Ouyang Qian chuckled. That's true. For a child from a poor family like Jiang Xiu, how could he understand the importance of socializing, especially entering the upper-class circle? Yi Wenchen asked. Jiang Xiu, how did you get in? His tone was unfriendly and almost interrogative. Jiang Xiu said, do I need to explain myself to you? Yi Wenchen didn't expect this kid to not give him face in front of so many people. This put him on the spot. His face turned pale. This is a high-class clubhouse. Not everyone who has a fruit stall at home can come in. Wow, the surrounding people were in an uproar when they heard that Jiang Xiu had a fruit stall in his home. Their eyes were filled with disdain. Ouyang Qian said, I guess it must be your girlfriend who brought you in. Girlfriend? How can someone like him have a girlfriend? Who's his girlfriend? To be able to get a person like Jiang Xiu into the club, she must be some rich family's daughter. Which rich family's daughter was so blind and rebellious to have picked such a poor boy? Yi Bing, the daughter of the Yi group. Hua, the crowd burst into an uproar again. Really? Everyone was shocked. Yi group was one of the top enterprises in Jiang City. It was one of the top enterprises in Jiangnan province. Many rich and powerful young masters were eyeing the daughter of the Yi family. Why did she choose a fruit stall? She was too capricious. It seems that Director Yi is also here today. An elegant middle-aged man was holding a glass of red wine as he walked into the hall with his friends. However, there was a sharp glint in his eyes. He was Yi Bing's biological father, the CEO of the Yi group, Yi Iliang. I know the daughter of the Yi family. She's very beautiful. Why? Many people shook their heads and sighed. It's just for fun. Jiang Xiu was also confused. Why would Ouyang Qian think that Yi Bing was his girlfriend? Could it be that Lu Xiaoyan told others? Although he was surprised, Jiang Xiu didn't want to explain. Spiritual cultivation didn't need to explain. He just shook his head and said, No. Then you have an invitation? Jiang Xiu said, No. Now everyone was confused. Then how did you get in? This banquet was very strict when it came to sending out invitations. This was not a commercial banquet. Even the average rich person could not enter because the matters involved were too confidential and could not be spread among the general public. Otherwise, it would cause panic among the people. You couldn't have snuck in, right? Yi Wenchen narrowed his eyes and boldly made an unfounded guess. However, it resonated with the people around him. Jiang Xiu, get out immediately. Seeing that everyone agreed with his judgment, Yi Wenchen was even more certain that Jiang Xiu had used his own ability to avoid the security guards and sneak in. His eyes were wide open, and he looked like he was giving an order. It was as if he was the host of this banquet. Jiang Xiu said, What if I don't leave? Yi Wenchen said, Don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. This isn't a place where you can behave atrociously. Get out of here. Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed with coldness. Just as he was about to speak, a middle-aged man walked in from the crowd and said angrily, "What's going on? Who dares to cause trouble at Bailey Den?" "It's Bailey Den's Yang F***CK. Even the boss has come out. It seems that this brat is in trouble. What kind of place does he think Bailey Den is? It's not a place where someone like him can come and eat as he pleases." Yi Wenchen saw that person and said excitedly, "Second uncle, this person doesn't have an invitation. I suspect that he snuck in. Hurry and chase him out." Hua! The surrounding people were in an uproar. The way they looked at Yi Wenchen changed. So the boss of Bailey Den was actually Yi Wenchen's second uncle. As expected, he was someone with a backer. Yi Wenchen enjoyed the gazes of the surrounding people and felt that he was a different person. This also explained why Yi Wenchen gave out so many invitations even though it was so hard to get. Yang Yong looked at Jiang Xiu. "Mister, do you have an invitation? Please take it out for me to see." Jiang Xiu's eyes turned cold. "Why do you have to check my invitation just because he questioned me?" Yang Yong said, "Because you look unfamiliar." "I don't dare to say that I know everyone in Jiang City's upper class, but most of them look familiar. However, I have never seen you before. Is this reason enough?" Yi Wenchen said, "Second uncle, his family owns a fruit stall." "Ift." The surrounding people laughed. "Young Master Yi, you're too sarcastic. Don't say it out loud. You'll embarrass him." Yang Yong's face did not have a smile. "Please take out your invitation." His heart turned cold. If someone had really snuck into the club, then it meant that he had neglected his duty. According to the old man's temperament, he would definitely punish him. Fortunately, he was discovered in the outer hall. If he had entered the inner hall and offended those big shots, then he would definitely lose his job. This time, Jiang Xiu is going to be in trouble. Ouyang Qian and Li Dan looked at each other and revealed a gloating expression. They had completely forgotten that Jiang Xiu had saved them in the entertainment city. They only remembered that Jiang Xiu had called them cats and dogs. Lin Shu said, "You're really shameless. Someone who owns a fruit stall at home actually wants to enter the upper class. How much do you want to pretend to be rich?" Cheng Lingsu also shook her head. Her beautiful eyebrows were tightly knitted. She lowered her head and said, "Mom, why don't you help him? Don't let Bai Lading make things too difficult for him." No matter what, Jiang Xiu was her childhood friend. Sun Xiaohong said, "Daughter, are you crazy? If I help him, then won't people know about his relationship with our family? Then he won't be the only one who will lose face. We will also lose face." Cheng Lingsu, "This," Jiang Xiu said. "I really don't have an invitation because I don't need it. I'm a guest that Bai Lading spent a lot of money to invite. I can directly enter the venue." "Ha ha ha." Yi Wenchen laughed loudly. He laughed so hard that tears were about to come out. "Jiang Xiu. Oh Jiang Xiu, can you still have some shame? You even spent a lot of money to invite a guest. Why don't you take a piss and look at yourself in the mirror?" Everyone present shook their heads speechlessly. Their eyes were full of contempt and disdain. They had never heard of the organizer spending money to invite him to a banquet. He didn't even go out and ask how much an invitation was sold for. In any case, he should have made up a more believable lie. This was too much. "Throw this person out. Also, inform the police that this person is up to no good." As the boss of Bai Lading, Yang Yong naturally knew that they never spent money to invite people. He was now 100% sure that Jiang Xiu had snuck in. Yi Wenchen sneered. "Jiang Xiu, you and I are not on the same level. If I tell you to scram, then you have to scram." Scram. The surrounding people also started to kick up a fuss. To them, Jiang Xiu was just a disgusting fly. The upper class was more xenophobic than any other group. They thirsted for privileges. Otherwise, they wouldn't have set up such a high-class club. They just wanted to isolate the majority of the people outside. Scram. Yi Wenchen had the attitude of a victor. His posture was tall and straight, and his eyes were filled with disdain. It was as if he had just taught an insignificant ant a lesson. Yes, in his opinion, Jiang Xiu was already giving Jiang Xiu a lot of credit by allowing him to make a move. Suddenly, a voice that sent chills down people's spines sounded. "Who dares to ask my guest to scram?" Chapter 36. Hearing this, everyone looked over in surprise. There was actually someone who was so ignorant as to support the fruit stall. Yi Wenchen was about to say something sarcastic, but when he remembered that this was a first-class clubhouse and everyone present was extremely wealthy, he forcefully swallowed back his angry words. An elegant man with an angry aura walked over. His eyes were about to explode and his face was as cold as an ice sculpture. The person who came was Tang Wenchong. He was just socializing with a friend, and allowed Jiang Xiu to walk into the clubhouse. He didn't expect that someone would chase away the guest he had painstakingly invited. Who is this person? Is he very arrogant? Ouyang Qian sneered. Today the entire situation was on their side. There was also Yi Wenchen's second uncle, the boss of Baden, who wouldn't give him some face. Yet there was actually someone who stood up for Jiang Xiu? Are you crazy? Lin Shu's face changed. You don't even know young Master Tang? Ouyang Qian said in a daze. Young Master Tang? Which Tang family? Lin Shu said in a bad mood. What do you think? Is there a second Tang family in Rivertown? If one didn't know Tang Wenchong in Rivertown's hedonistic circle, it only meant that one's status was far from enough. The reason why Lin Shu could recognize Tang Wenchong wasn't because of his status, but because he was fated to meet Tang Wenchong before. He deeply remembered this top-class young master. However, Tang Wenchong didn't even know who he was? You're saying that he is grandfather Tang's. Ouyang Qian's face turned pale when she realized who it was. She was scared to death. Young Master Chong. Young Master Chong. Many people present greeted him. Yi Wenchen's second uncle, Yang Yong, also greeted him respectfully. He was more respectful than anyone else and even bowed. Young Master Chong, you're here. Tang Wenchong turned a deaf ear to him and walked straight to Yi Wenchen. His cold eyes made Yi Wenchen's hair stand on end. Is that you? Are you chasing away my guest? Hua. Is he really a guest or is he invited by young Master Chong? Yi Wenchen and Yang Yong's faces changed. How is this possible? What kind of status did the young master of the Tang clan have? How could he know someone who opened a fruit stall? Yi Wenchen said, Young Master Chong, are you mistaken? He is a fruit stall owner. Tang Wenchong gnashed his teeth in anger. Are you blind? Not only did you not recognize Mr. Jiang, you even dared to humiliate him. You really don't know how to write the word death. What was worse was that he was implicated by this bastard, and had a reputation of neglecting his guests. If Mr. Jiang left in a huff, who would he cry to? Scram. He cursed angrily. This angry scolding was like a slap to his face. Yi Wenchen's expression changed like a frosted eggplant. He was as embarrassed as he could be. Yang Yong pleaded for mercy for his nephew, so he said, Young Master Chong, this is my. He thought that his nephew wanted to help. After all, the other party was just a fruit stall owner. Even if he was an invited guest, it was fine. It was fine as long as he explained it clearly. There was no need to chase his nephew away. However, Tang Wenchong glared at him and said, You scram too. From this moment on, you are no longer the boss of Bailang. Yang Yong was stunned. He couldn't believe it. After a while, he came back to his senses and said hurriedly, No, young Master Chong, please listen to my explanation. Scram. Tang Wenchong didn't give him a chance to explain. Yang Yong's heart fell to the bottom. His current status came from his position as the boss of Bailang. If he lost this job, everything would be gone. He said agitatedly, Young Master Chong, I was just doing my duty and checking this person's invitation. He didn't have it. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong, young Master Chong. Tang Wenchong said, Yes, you didn't do anything wrong. But your mistake is that you don't know who you are offending. Scram yourself. Don't make me call security. Hua. The crowd went into an uproar again. From these words, it seemed that this person who opened a fruit stall had a very important role. What was going on? Things really took a turn for the worse. Initially, they thought that Jiang Xiu would end up in a miserable state. Who would have thought that there would be such a huge counterattack? Not only was Yi Wenchen kicked out of the club, even his second uncle, who was supposed to protect him, was fired. What a slap in the face! Everyone looked at Jiang Xiu with a different expression. How could he be Tang Wenchong's friend? Could it be that he has some big background? Sun Xiaohong and Cheng Lingsu were the most surprised. They knew Jiang Xiu's background better than anyone else. Jiang Xiu's parents opened a fruit stall. How could Jiang Xiu know Tang Wenchong? So he knows Tang Wenchong. No wonder he has been so arrogant recently. Cheng Lingsu finally found the reason for Jiang Xiu's change. Is this why you are so confident? Then she shook her head gently. She was too naive. Tang Wenchong was at most your friend. To what extent could he support you? Only when you are strong can you be strong. Jiang Xiu, you are still the same Jiang Xiu. Tang Wenchong said to Jiang Xiu, Mr. Jiang, I'm sorry. Wenchong apologizes to you. Jiang Xiu was still indifferent. He smiled non-committally. A discordant voice said, Don't be pretentious. If this place doesn't want you, there will be a place for you. The voice was lazy and teasing. Who is it? This made Tang Wenchong frown. Everyone was also very surprised that there was someone who dared to challenge young Master Tang. However, they saw a man in a white suit standing lazily at the side. It was young Master Bai called Bai Feng. He walked over with a wine glass in his hand. Tang Wenchong, they are also my guests. This Baden doesn't belong to your family alone. My Bai family also has a share. What right do you have to chase my guests away? Wow. The surrounding people were in an uproar. Young Master Bai. Yi Wenchen was very excited. He never thought that young Master Bai would stand up for him. It could only be said that the ups and downs of life were too fast and too exciting. Bai Feng gestured for Yi Wenchen to calm down. He glanced at Jiang Xiu with contempt. Even a fruit stall can enter our Baden. It seems that I need to tell my father that Baden should close as soon as possible. Tang Wenchong frowned. Bai Feng, what do you mean? Are you really going against me? Bai Feng smiled coldly and said to Yang Yong, You did well. This kind of person who dresses like a beggar and still wants to squeeze into the upper class should be kicked out. Don't worry, as long as this young master is here, no one can kick you out of your position as Baden's CEO. You. Tang Wenchong's expression changed greatly. This was a hard slap to his face. He lowered his voice and said, Bai Feng, don't ask for a rebuff. Don't forget why this banquet is being held today. Bai Feng said seriously, I know exactly why this banquet is being held today. This young master is the one who wants to maintain Baden's proper status and protect everyone's convenience. Bai Feng's gaze fell on Jiang Xiu. Jiang Xiu's face was calm from beginning to end. Kid, know your place and scram. Don't force me to call security. Baden is not a place where you can come. Bai Feng. Tang Wenchong roared angrily. It wasn't easy for him to invite Jiang Xiu. If he were to run away, where would he go to cry? I'm warning you, Mr. Jiang is an important guest. He's not someone you can afford to offend. Ha ha ha. Bai Feng wasn't frightened by Tang Wenchong at all. Instead, he laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. He couldn't help but shake his head lightly with a helpless expression. Tang Wenchong, think before you speak. This young master can't afford to offend someone like him? This young master can crush him like crushing an ant. Ouyang Qian's hair stood on end. She was so excited that her face turned red. Young Master Bai is so impressive. Lin Shu said, Young Master Bai's family background is prominent. In the entire Jiangnan province, the Bai family is ranked among the top. Qin Weiping of Wanji Real Estate is his cousin. They have connections to the capital. No wonder. Even young Master Tang was suppressed. Jiang Xiu's lips curled into a smile. His interest was piqued. He walked in front of Bai Feng and said, You said crushing this sovereign is like crushing an ant. Yes, this sovereign is very curious. How are you going to do it? Suddenly, Jiang Xiu stretched out his palm. It was as if thunder had exploded in the clubhouse. His palm directly slapped Bai Feng's handsome face. Bai Feng's entire body flew out horizontally. Wow. The crowd gasped. Everyone was stunned. Cheng Lingsu and Sun Xiaohong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Chapter 37. This was young Master Bai. He actually dared to hit young Master Bai. Seeing Bai Feng fly out, everyone present was extremely shocked. Their bodies trembled uncontrollably. This was like piercing through the sky. Even Tang Wenchong was stunned. Bai Feng fell to the ground fiercely. His pupils were dilated and almost popped out. He didn't dare to believe and couldn't believe that a fruit stall owner dared to hit him. His trembling hand touched his mouth. It was full of blood. He spat out 2 front teeth. You dare to hit me? Who do you think you are? How dare you hit me? One could imagine the fury in his heart. It was almost burning him up. He, Bai Feng, was actually hit by someone. This brat is dead meat. It's not just him. His whole family and even his relatives will be in trouble. If a young master from a wealthy family wanted to destroy an ordinary family, it was just a matter of a word. There were plenty of underlings who would do it for them. Sun Xiaohong said nervously to Cheng Lingsu, "Cancel the engagement. Cancel the engagement immediately. This Jiang Xiu is too outrageous. He can't even take a little bit of anger and humiliation. Not to mention his family background. Even if he was a young master from an aristocratic family, he wouldn't be able to have any future." Cheng Lingsu hadn't told Sun Xiaohong that she had already signed the agreement to cancel the engagement with Jiang Xiu. At this moment, her face was filled with shock. Even her red lips were a little pale. Too impulsive, too impulsive. The other party was a top-notch young master of Rivertown. The Bai family could make Rivertown tremble with a stomp of their feet. How dare he hit a young master of the Bai family? Didn't he see that even Tang Wenchong was put on the spot? And you are just a small fry relying on Tang Wenchong. She didn't dare to imagine what would happen next. Bai Feng was extremely furious. "I will cripple you today." The Bai family was a martial arts aristocratic family. Naturally, Bai Feng was also a martial arts expert. His strength was far above the so-called super soldier kings of the Battle Dragon Legion. However, he had been too careless just now. He had never imagined that Jiang Xiu would dare to make a move on him. Tang Wenchong said, "Bai Feng, if you really cause a ruckus in front of so many dignitaries today, you won't be the only one losing face. You'll also lose the face of your entire Bai family." Bai Feng completely ignored Tang Wenchong. Right now, there was only one thing in his mind, and that was to kill Jiang Xiu. "Kid, I Bai Feng won't bully you. Let's go out and fight one-on-one. One-on-one, I'll give you a handicap of 1 hand." Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and glanced at him coldly. "You're not qualified. Arrogant, extremely arrogant." He actually said that young master Bai was not qualified. What arrogance! A voice came from afar, but it clearly fell into everyone's ears. It exploded in the crowd like thunder, and the entire venue seemed to have turned cold. Even the wind seemed to have stopped. A young man dressed in a pure white robe stepped into the venue. Young Master Lin. The crowd in the distance parted to form a narrow path, and the people along the way all stared at this young master. He was very thin, but along the way, every step he took was grand and imposing. So much so that all the influential people present did not dare to make a sound. Who is he? Many people present didn't know who this person was. They only saw his imposing manner, and didn't know what to think. One of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, the Lin family. Lin Jiadong. Ouyang Qian covered her mouth exaggeratedly. The little girl was shocked. The Tang and Bai families were already so frightening in Jiangcheng. One of the 4 major families in Jiangnan? Oh my God, what kind of existence was that? What if you count me in? Hua. There was an uproar in the venue. Lin Jiadong had the Lin family behind him. If he supported Bai Feng, wouldn't it mean that the Lin family was joining forces with the Bai family? Jiang Xiu shook his head faintly. "That's not enough. What if you count me in?" As they spoke, another young master came out from the lounge. This one was very tall. When they saw him, the crowd exclaimed again. "It's Li Chengfeng from the Li family, one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan." The more they looked, the more shocked they were. Everyone was used to calling Li Chengfeng the Sky Dragon instructor because he was an instructor in the Sky Dragon army. However, he was younger than most of the members. Coupled with his identity as the young master of the Bai family, he was one of the top young talents in Jiangnan. Why is he here too? Isn't he in the military? Don't be like this. Don't bully him like this. He's just a fruit stall owner. Young masters, are you trying to scare him to death? However, Jiang Xiu still shook his head. It's still not enough. Tisk tsk tisk, another voice interrupted. What about me? When the crowd looked again, they were so shocked that their eyes almost popped out. Young Master Gu. The surrounding people exclaimed in unison. Everyone was in a mess. The first young master of Jiangnan. The girls present could not remain calm. This was the only son of Gu number 1, the leader of the rich young masters in Jiangnan. What was going on today? Even young Master Gu was here. It's over. It's over. It's completely over. If these young masters worked together, the entire Jiangnan would be turned upside down. Now they were working together to deal with a fruit stall owner. Numb. Completely numb. The Bai family of Jiangnan, the Lin family of one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, the Li family of one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, and the first young master of Jiangnan. Wow, this is so scary. This kid is going to die here today. It's still not enough. This kid, not yielding in the face of power, was indeed praiseworthy. However, if he knew he was no match for them, he would be an idiot. Cheng Lingsu's pretty face became paler. Actually, she wanted to save Jiang Xiao. When Jiang Xiao was arguing with young Master Bai, she and Jiang Xiao could be considered acquaintances. However, the situation was completely out of control now. No one could save Jiang Xiao. Jiang Xiao should not have hit Bai Feng. What kind of existence was Bai Feng? Looking at the situation now, it was clear that his friends were all young masters. Tang Wencheng was stunned. He did not know how to end the situation. Kid, I think you're scared out of your wits. Young Master Lin Jiadong of the Lin family, one of the 4 major families in Jiangnan, sneered. He did not think that Jiang Xiao had the strength to challenge the 4 young masters. Is that so? Jiang Xiao thought to himself. In the face of the combined attack of 9 celestial venerables, he could still escape thousands of miles away with a smile. Slap. Jiang Xiao slapped Lin Jiadong's face fiercely. In the silent and empty venue, the slap was so loud. Lin Jiadong's smile was still hanging on his face. There were 5 bright red fingerprints on his face. He was stunned. Everyone was stunned. Their mouths formed the shape of an O. Oh my God! What the F***CK? What the F***CK? All kinds of vulgarities were raging in their hearts. The fruit stall owner was really heaven-defying. What about now? Jiang Xiao asked indifferently. Do you still think that I'm scared out of my wits? Spiritual cultivation used the most direct method to prove that he was not scared out of his wits. Lin Jiadong was stunned for a long time. He did not dare to believe that someone dared to hit him. Moreover, it was in front of so many people. The burning pain on his face told him that everything was real. That damn fruit stall owner had hit him. He had slapped him in the face. You dare to hit me? Lin Jiadong finally reacted. His eyes were about to fall out of their sockets. As someone who had experienced it before, Bai Feng understood Lin Jiadong's current feelings very well. What kind of feeling was it to be hit by someone who they regarded as an ant? First, he did not dare to believe it. Then anger rushed to the top of his head. He was about to explode. Cheng Feng was also stunned. He shouted wildly. Brat, I think you're not scared out of your wits. You're scared out of your wits. It was one thing to offend the Bai family, but he actually dared to offend the Lin family, one of the 4 great families in Jiangnan. No normal person would do such a thing. He must have been scared out of his wits. Jiang Xiao said indifferently. Is that so? Slap. Just like that. Jiang Xiao also slapped him in the face. The sound was loud and clear. It told him that he had not been scared out of his wits. Young Master Li was also hit. At this moment, there were no words to describe the feelings of the people present. They were dumbfounded. They were dumbfounded. It was as if 10,000 alpacas were running wildly. This damn fruit stall owner actually dared to hit 3 young masters in a row. They were young masters who could shake half of Jiangnan with a stomp of their feet. The remaining young Master Gu, was very embarrassed because the other 3 young masters who had teamed up with him had all been beaten up. Now he was the only one left. When he saw Jiang Xiao's gaze sweep over, young Master Gu's face turned green. Of course he was not afraid. As the only son of Gu Shu and the first young master of Jiangnan, who dared to touch him, he was angry. How dare someone hit his brother in front of him? How could he have any face left? I don't believe that you dare to hit me. Why don't you try it one by one? Slap. This damn fruit stall owner, he really hit him. Why don't you go to heaven? Chapter 38. He was crazy, completely crazy. He actually dared to hit them. He even dared to hit young Master Gu. Great. The 4 young masters were defeated in one fell swoop, and they were even humiliated by being slapped. While they were extremely shocked, they also felt that it was extremely absurd. The 4 young masters were small characters who could be eliminated by just touching their lips, but they actually suffered such humiliation. Just thinking about it made them feel aggrieved. Anyone would go crazy if they were in this situation. Jiang Xiu was still indifferent. The luster in his eyes was like a dark and cold abyss, as if he was looking at an ant from ancient times. I hit you. What can you do? Oh my God, not only did this guy hit the 4 young masters, he even dared to be so arrogant. He was about to break down. What was wrong with this world? Had the loser's counterattack become so extreme? You very good, very good. Young Master Gu's fair face had a clear handprint. His chest was heaving violently, and his gaze was as if he wanted to eat someone. Call for help. Young Master Gu lost his composure and roared. Bai Feng, Lin Jiadong, and Cheng Feng took out their phones fiercely. They could all see that Jiang Xiu was skilled, but he didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. The consecrators in their families were much stronger than him. Kill this bastard, kill him. The 4 young masters were about to explode. The atmosphere at the scene became extremely tense. Bai Feng being hit was already shocking, and now the 3 top young masters in Jiangnan, including the first young master, were all beaten up by Jiang Xiu. This was simply shocking. One could imagine how terrifying the upcoming storm would be. This guy was completely finished. Now no one in this world could save him. Even if the Tang family tried their best to protect him, they definitely couldn't. What a joke. The 4 young masters and young Master Gu were all inside. Tang Wencheng's face was already pale with fright. Mr. Jiang, you were too impulsive. Now you've gotten into big trouble. His voice was trembling. Jiang Xiu ignored everything. I hope a few decent ones will come. Tang Wencheng said, Mr. Jiang, let's leave before their people arrive. Jiang Xiu said, leave. Tang Wenzong was so anxious that he was about to cry. When their people come, it will be troublesome. Jiang Xiu said, really? I'm looking forward to it. Tang Wencheng was so anxious that he broke out in a cold sweat when he saw that 4th young master had made a phone call, and Jiang Xiu had no intention of leaving. It wasn't that he didn't have confidence in Jiang Xiu, but the opponent was too strong. No matter how strong Jiang Xiu was, it was impossible for the 4 young masters to be a match for him. In desperation, he took out his phone and called Tang Jinshan. Tang Jinshan's voice came from the other side of the phone. Hello Wencheng, how is it going? Did you manage to invite Mr. Jiang? When he asked this question, old Master Tang was still quite nervous. He underestimated Jiang Xiu's strength and missed a chance to befriend Jiang Xiu. A strong person like Jiang Xiu was bound to be very arrogant. He thought that the possibility of Tang Wencheng inviting him was very small, almost impossible. Tang Wencheng said, he did invite him. You invited him? Tang Jinshan was instantly energized when he heard this. Great, Wencheng had made a great contribution this time. But Grandpa, Mr. Jiang was offended by Bai Feng, Lin Jiadong, Cheng Feng, and young Master Gu. He beat them up. Tang Wencheng was very depressed. It was supposed to be a great contribution. What? Tang Jinshan was slightly surprised. He pondered for a moment and said, where is he? At the clubhouse. Tang Jinshan said, the banquet is about to start. I will inform their elders and ask those little bastards to behave themselves. A bunch of blind things. Hearing his grandpa's words, Tang Wencheng breathed a sigh of relief. The old man had always been a man of his word. Since he said that he could suppress the 4 young masters, he could definitely do it. Tang Jinshan hung up the phone and immediately called the fathers that the 4 young masters relied on to survive. This was the root of their arrogance. If it wasn't for the fact that they had a good father, this group of people would be a bunch of trash. However, even though that was the case, who asked them to have a good father? There was nothing they could do. The Bai Lin, and Li families were easy to deal with. In Tang Wencheng's opinion, the most troublesome one was young Master Gu. He was Gu Shu's son. However, in Tang Zhenshan's opinion, young Master Gu was the easiest to deal with. Gu Shu was very careful about his official reputation, and was very strict with his children. There's a good show to watch. Jiang Xiu is really going to be in big trouble this time. Yi Wenchen was so excited that he could not suppress his excitement. Yes. Ouyang Qian was also very excited. She had completely forgotten that Jiang Xiu had helped her in the entertainment city that day. This guy thinks he can do something just because he knows a few moves. Well, now he's in big trouble. You want to drive me away and fire my second uncle? You'd better think about whether you can walk out of the club alive. Just when everyone was looking forward to a good show, the situation suddenly changed. What? He can't be touched? Young Master Gu received such a call, and was very shocked. He was full of anger and had nowhere to vent it. Unexpectedly, he was told that he could not touch this person. Why? Young Master Gu's voice was close to a roar. He, a fruit stall owner, hit me. Can't I touch him? Everyone present heard that, and a huge question mark appeared in their minds. Looking at Jiang Xiu's calm and collected manner, they had previously thought that he was an idiot. But now they felt that Jiang Xiu's entire person was different. He had become unfathomable. Even the first young master of Jiangnan could not touch him. But, before young Master Gu could finish, the other party had already hung up the phone. His meaning was very clear. There was no room for negotiation. Young Master Gu's handsome face turned green and white. He had lost face today. First, he was hit by this damn fruit stall owner. Now he was scolded like a dog by the old master. Kid, the banquet has started. I'll let you go for now. Young Master Gu was not an obedient child. He could not mess up the matter between the Tang and Qin families. However, after the banquet, he would not let Jiang Xiu go. He even said with the demeanor of a general, "Brothers, do me a favor and put out the fire first. We'll talk about it after the banquet. We have to give some face to the host." What he said was very reasonable. In addition, with the four young masters' face, no one would think that they were afraid of Jiang Xiu. They would only think that the four young masters were awesome and amazing. They could endure until after the banquet. Benevolent and righteous. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. Then wait until after the banquet. I hope you won't disappoint me. Hearing this, Tang Wencheng broke out in a cold sweat. This Mr. Jiang was really not someone to be trifled with. If it wasn't for my grandfather, who knows what would have happened to you? How dare you be so arrogant? The surrounding crowd was in an uproar. This guy was not done yet. The four young masters were giving face to the host, but he still wanted to take advantage of them. This guy didn't know what was good for him. He should be dealt with right now. Don't worry, I won't let you off easily. Just you wait. The four young masters were very depressed. They were the top young masters of Jiangnan, who could make the province tremble 3 times with a stomp of their feet. Now they were forced to talk tough like primary school students. Don't leave after school. The four young masters felt that they had lost all their cool. Let's go. The four young masters' faces were all covered with 5 distinct fingerprints. No matter how one looked at them, they looked very weak. The most pitiful one was Bai Feng. Jiang Xiu had hit him the hardest. Half of his face was swollen, and 2 of his front teeth were missing. Looking at the backs of the 4 young masters, the guests were all in a daze. Were these still the 4 top young masters of Jiangnan? Why did they feel so miserable and miserable? Mr. Jiang, please come in. Tang Wencheng wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. The storm had calmed down for the time being. After waiting for the crowd to move forward, Jiang Xiu also slowly walked in. However, he was blocked by someone. It was Cheng Lingsu. She stared coldly at Jiang Xiu, as if she had something to say. Jiang Xiu said, "You go in first. I'll be right behind you." Tang Wencheng was also a discerning person. When he saw such a beautiful girl standing in front of Mr. Jiang, he immediately understood that it was a relationship problem. It wasn't good to get involved in this kind of thing. He nodded and walked in. However, after the lesson last time, he definitely didn't dare to let Jiang Xiu go alone this time. Who knew what kind of trouble he would cause again? He was waiting not far away. What's the matter? Cheng Lingsu glanced at Tang Wencheng, who was walking away. She didn't want to know how Jiang Xiu knew Tang Wencheng, nor was she interested in knowing. However, she knew that Jiang Xiu's danger was caused by Tang Wencheng's phone call. The Tang family can protect you for now, but they can't protect you forever. Hurry up and leave. This place doesn't suit you. Go back to where you belong and live a peaceful life. Chapter 39. Cheng Lingsu nodded her head. I know you are very unwilling. After all, you once had the opportunity to enter the upper class circle, but you lost it. You and I are people from two different worlds. Countless ordinary people want to squeeze into the upper class circle, but what awaits them is only humiliation. Jiang Xiu looked towards Cheng Lingsu and asked, Is this what you wanted to tell me? Cheng Lingsu said, Now that you have offended 4 of Jiangnan's top young masters, you have even less of a foothold in this circle. Leave, this place is really not suitable for you. Is that so? Jiang Xiu smiled faintly, then walked past Cheng Lingsu. Seeing that Jiang Xiu did not listen to her advice, Cheng Lingsu's eyes revealed a bit of stubbornness. She said firmly, Jiang Xiu, I will stop you. It has nothing to do with hatred. Then you can try. Cheng Lingsu's beautiful eyebrows furrowed, and she couldn't help but clench her fists, causing her shoulders to tremble slightly. Jiang Xiu walked in with large strides, and Tang Wencheng was waiting for him not far away. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had returned, he said politely, I was worried that Mr. Jiang would not be able to find a seat, so I waited here. Lead the way. In the upper class, there was a clear distinction between classes. According to status, the further in one went, the more respected one's status was. For example, Yi Wenchen was sitting at the outermost round table, along with Ouyang Qian and the others. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had entered, they were all guessing in their hearts where this brat would sit. Ouyang Qian said harshly, It's best to get a small stool for him to sit in the corner. Li Dan giggled. That's too strange. Isn't it strange for a fruit stall owner to enter the upper class? Ouyang Qian and the others were very unhappy that someone like Jiang Xiu could enter such a high-level banquet, causing them to lose their sense of superiority. After all, he is Tang Wencheng's guest. According to the rules, he should sit in the third-rate area. This time, Yi Wenchen was very pertinent. Their current position was a fourth-rate position. They came in because of Yang Yong, and they were children. It was natural for them to sit in the outermost area. Yi Wenchen was very clear about this. But even though he said so, he was still very unhappy. No matter how he looked at it, his group of people were much better than Jiang Xiu. But this damn fruit stall owner got to know Tang Wencheng. At this time, Cheng Lingsu also came to her seat and sat down. Her eyes followed Jiang Xiu's back. At this moment, Jiang Xiu had already entered the third-rate area. Sun Xiaohong's invitation was from the third-rate area. It was already good that her friend could get a third-rate area. And that was because she was in the same military as Tang Jinshan. Sun Xiaohong also saw him. Her eyes flashed with surprise. No matter what, she had to make Su Su and Jiang Xiu break off the engagement. Not to mention whether he could get past the 4 young masters today. Even if he did, he would offend the 4 young masters. Offending the 4 young masters in Jiangnan was equivalent to offending most of the influential people in Jiangnan. How could the Cheng family accept such a son-in-law? Jiang Xiu continued to walk forward and pass through the third-rate area. Why did he go over? Yi Wenchen and the others saw this and felt a wave of unfairness in their hearts. They were already very unhappy that he was 1 level higher than them. Now there was a possibility that he was 2 levels higher than them. Why? Why was that damn fruit stall owner? Cheng Lingsu's face also showed surprise. Her mother was sitting in the third-rate area, but his seat was higher than her mother's. Yi Wenchen said, Then he's in the second-rate area. He can't be higher than the second-rate area. Tang Wencheng himself was only qualified to sit in the second-rate area. Ouyang Qian expressed her disdain. What's so great about him? Lin Shu said, It's fun to show off, but his whole family will be cremated. Let's see what he'll do after the banquet. Damn. He suddenly cursed halfway through his words. Jiang Xiu actually passed through the second-rate area and went to the first-rate area. This was incredible. What kind of person was sitting in the first-rate area? No way. Yi Wenchen was a bit in disbelief. How could Jiang Xiu enter such a high-class area? The first-rate area was already very far away from them. It was almost 100 meters away. It was an area that they could only look up to. Cheng Lingsu lost her composure and craned her neck. The Tang family valued Jiang Xiu that much. How could he? It's true. A few people cried out in unison after seeing clearly. Their voices were filled with unwillingness, but also helplessness. Every area had a precise social position. It was either related to status, assets, or influence. Everyone present worked hard to enter the first-rate area and paid countless prices to do so. But now Jiang Xiu directly went to the first-rate area. How could they remain calm? They were about to break down. How could this be? Young Master Gu, young Master Li, and even Bai Feng were sitting in the first-rate area. Moreover, they were sitting in the periphery of the first-rate area. Seeing Tang Wencheng bring Jiang Xiu into the first-rate area, they couldn't help but frown. Enemies were bound to meet on a narrow road. How could this tramp sneak into the first-rate area? But Jiang Xiu was still walking forward. He passed through the periphery of the first-rate area. Young Master Gu and the rest's eyes widened. How could this be? If he went any further, he would be sitting in the top seats. Although they were young masters, they were still the second generation. They would only be able to sit in the core of the first-rate area when they truly took charge of the family. Yi Wenchen and the rest couldn't help but stand up. He could sit in the core of the first-rate area? Was he on the same level as the big shots? Everyone who had just witnessed the quarrel between Jiang Xiu and the four young masters were all shocked. Could it be that this damn fruit stall owner had an extraordinary identity? But the shock wasn't over yet. Jiang Xiu was still walking inside. He went in. Jiang Xiu directly entered the inner court. Everyone was speechless. They were extremely unwilling. This was the order of old master Tang Jinshan. He asked Tang Wencheng to bring Jiang Xiu into the inner court. Jiang Xiu wasn't a sorcerer, but old master Tang Jinshan believed that he was qualified to enter. The inner court was lush with greenery. The carved corridors and waterside pavilions were antique. The environment was very elegant. The noise outside couldn't reach here at all. Welcome, Mr. Jiang. Tang Jinshan's face was full of smiles. The sleeve of his broken arm swayed gently in the wind. There was no hatred in his eyes. It was as if he was really welcoming an important guest. Old Master Tang, long time no see. Jiang Xiu's face was indifferent. In the end, his gaze fell on Tang Jinshan's broken arm. He frowned slightly and abandoned the broken arm. He secretly shook his head. Mortals were ignorant. Even if they couldn't use it, they had to reattach it. Otherwise, they would be born with a broken arm in their next life. Therefore, in ancient times, corpses had to be sewn together. This was the reason. Talisman paper. Tang Wencheng didn't understand, but Tang Jinshan still signaled him to do it. This Mr. Jiang was really a strange person. Why did he want talisman paper? Coincidentally, today was the ancient artifacts appreciation ceremony. There was a stack of old talisman paper on the table. He didn't know which era it was from. Since Jiang Xiu wanted it, he went to get one. Jiang Xiu held it in his left hand. There were talismans drawn on the talisman paper. He just glanced at it and formed a sword finger in the air. There was no mana on it, so Jiang Xiu directly ignored it. As Jiang Xiu drew the talisman paper in the air, the runes on the talisman paper began to appear. However, Tang Jinshan and Tang Wencheng couldn't see it at all. Soon, Jiang Xiu finished drawing and said, "After old Master Tang passes away, stick this talisman on his broken arm. Remember." Jiang Xiu handed the talisman paper to Tang Jinshan for safekeeping. He was the one who cut off Tang Jinshan's arm, but he didn't commit the crime in his next life. Jiang Xiu's talisman was called the Remnant Soul Talisman. It would allow him to reincarnate as a completely normal person instead of a disabled person. Tang Jinshan didn't understand. Mr. Jiang knows the law? Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and didn't comment. He had already given the talisman to Tang Jinshan. As for whether Tang Jinshan believed him or not, or whether his descendants would follow his instructions, that would depend on his own luck. Thank you, Mr. Jiang. Please come in. On the exhibition table, there were many ancient artifacts. They were all covered with glass. They would only be taken out when a certain sorcerer wanted to identify them. Tang Jinshan had kept these things as ancient artifacts. With his eyesight, even if they weren't ancient artifacts, they were still valuable antiques. Naturally, he had to be careful. Since Mr. Jiang knows the law, please take a look. Many people were gathered in one place. Jiang Xiu curiously glanced at it. On the exhibition stand there was something that looked like a black wine jar. On top of it, there was a talisman paper that was already yellowed and covered in mud. This was dug out from the ground when the temple was demolished. Chapter 40. Qin Weiping's engineering team had done a lot of work and were knowledgeable. After seeing this item, they didn't destroy it. They didn't even dare to touch it. They just took it out and preserved it well. This is a soul altar. A middle-aged mage dressed in simple and elegant clothing spoke. This item was very unfamiliar to normal people, but to mages it was very common. He stared at the talisman on it and read, "Pardon, flatten, thunder, gu, something something true master seal." The words on the talisman couldn't be seen clearly. Jiang Xiu also curiously went over. He was dressed in street clothes and looked like a young man. He was very eye-catching among the mages with silver hair and an ethereal aura. One of them frowned. Tang Laosi must be stupid. He found a brat who's still wet behind the ears to appraise an ancient artifact. His voice wasn't soft. Let alone Jiang Xiu, even Tang Jinshan in the distance heard it. Tang Jinshan was very embarrassed. Don't be unreasonable. An old man sat in the distance like an immortal. His eyes were tightly closed. He hadn't opened his eyes since Jiang Xiu came in. He seemed very pretentious. Old Master Tang, please don't take offense. My disciple speaks without thinking. The person who spoke was very important. Tang Jinshan carefully replied. Master Wulong is too polite. Tang Wenchong quietly explained to Jiang Xiu. This is one of the few mages in Jiangnan, Master Wulong. Even the big shots in the province are respectful when they see him. The mages in front of the soul altar carefully appraised it and showed troubled expressions. In the end they said helplessly, "My magic power is low. I can only see that the soul altar is strange, but I don't know what is strange about it. Please guide me, Master Wulong." However, the moon is full today and the yin energy is heavy. This soul altar can't block the moonlight. Use a red cloth to cover it. The service staff heard this and immediately took out a red cloth to cover the soul altar. Your cultivation is low and your knowledge shallow. It's already commendable that you were able to see the strangeness of this soul cage. And know to use a red cloth to cover it. Master Oolong's tone was frighteningly arrogant. Some of the magicians present had ugly expressions and lowered their heads in shame. Only two people at the far end were unperturbed. Tang Wenchong introduced him to Jiang Xiu. The one with white hair, a young face, straw sandals, and a gourd hanging from his waist is Master Nan Kuei, the #1 great wizard in Nanyue province. Tang Wenchong then pointed at the middle-aged man in the distance who was dressed in a long black robe. He looked fresh and capable, but also had a domineering aura. That's Mao Fong from Lingnan. He has a very resounding nickname, Little State Preceptor. These three are known as the Three Friends of the South. Wizard Oolong walked in front of the soul altar. Yes. Wizard Oolong suddenly stomped his feet and formed a sword in his hand. Two of his fingers turned crimson red and flickered. He then pointed at the soul altar. The soul altar covered by the red cloth actually began to vibrate. It was as if something inside the soul altar had been stimulated and was moving. The soul altar shone brightly, and the entire courtyard suddenly became cold. It was as if the temperature had dropped by 5 or 6 degrees. It felt like walking into a shopping mall on a hot summer day. All the magicians were so shocked that their eyes opened wide. They looked at the vibrating soul altar and felt an inexplicable fear. Their hair stood on end. Tang Wenchong, who didn't understand the law, was even more shocked and dumbfounded. What's inside? It gave them the feeling that there was something inside the soul altar, and that it was alive. However, This soul altar had been buried underground for at least a few hundred years. What could still be alive? Sorcerer Wu Long smiled faintly, and a trace of mockery flashed across his eyes. He retracted his sword finger, and the soul altar vibrated twice before becoming quiet. The surrounding air also returned to normal. The man who mocked Jiang Xiu said, "Did you see that? Now you know what a real magician is." The people present couldn't recover from their shock for a long time. Wizard Oolong was indeed one of the top magicians in Jiangnan. It wasn't an exaggeration. He really did have skills. Jiang Xiu glanced over and saw that Wizard Oolong indeed had skills. According to the Immortal Martial Continent's classification, he was probably at the Qi refining stage. On the Immortal Martial Continent, that was the beginning of a child's cultivation. However, on Earth he was definitely a top magician. Wizard Oolong's ability has opened my eyes. Tang Jinshan bowed deeply towards Wizard Oolong. From this, it could be seen that Tang Jinshan respected the strong. As expected of the #1 magician in Jiangnan. Wizard Oolong shook his head and said, "I don't dare. In Jiangnan there are 2.5 magicians stronger than me." "Oh, which 2.5? Tang Jinshan was very curious. He wasn't a magician, but he was very interested in this line of work. Hence, he often interacted with people in this line of work. Since ancient times, martial arts and magicians were closely related. The first one is naturally the one from the eastern state, Lu Duan Lu Xuanzi. Hearing this name, all the magicians present were moved. Even Tang Jinshan's expression changed. Lu Duan was from a family of magicians. His ancestors had once helped people conquer the country. He also had unfathomable abilities and was listed as one of the top 10 magicians in China. The second one is Whitebeard from the Taoyuan Mountains. Hearing this name, everyone present nodded. Whitebeard was also a powerful magician. However, he had lived in seclusion in the mountains for many years and didn't show himself often. This person had participated in the war and could accurately calculate the location of the enemy's headquarters and even the position of the enemy's commander. He was then killed by artillery fire. However, there were rumors that this person had already passed away. A magician beside him asked, "What about the other half?" Magician Oolong said, "About the other half? I just heard from Wanji's boss Qin Weiping that the Wanjiguang City project has been plagued with supernatural incidents. There was once a magician who went there. It was said that this magician used the Paper Horse Dragon King Temple as a medium to connect with the real Dragon King Temple. He burned the Paper Horse Dragon King Temple with fire and drove the Dragon King to reign in the entire Jiangcheng. It was truly earth-shattering. Even the usually calm magician Nan Kuei and the young Grand Tutor were shocked when they heard this. Wow! The magicians present were in an uproar. One of the magicians said, "Isn't this method on par with the legendary Shikigami technique?" Magician Oolong's expression was unprecedentedly serious as he said, "Indeed." Tang Jinshan didn't understand. If that's the case, why did Magician Oolong only say half? Magician Oolong said, "Because I didn't see it with my own eyes. It's just hearsay. If I saw it with my own eyes and everything is true, this Master Luo is 100 times stronger than me." That makes sense. Tang Jinshan nodded, expressing his agreement. That's right, where's Chairman Qin?" After talking for a long time, the real master of this matter, Qin Weiping, wasn't here. Someone at the side said, "Old Master, Chairman Qin received a call just now. It seems like it was from young master by phone, and he hurried out." Tang Jinshan nodded. It must be because Baifeng was beaten up by Jiang Xiu. The latter actually went to a table far away and took some food to eat. Spiritual cultivation was still in its growth stage, and it got hungry quickly. He was already quite hungry just now. After entering, there wasn't a banquet and he couldn't take it anymore. He walked to the side and started eating. He wasn't interested in what those people were saying at all. Jiang Xiu had roamed the immortal martial continent for 3,000 years. What kind of situation, what kind of people, what kind of situation had he not encountered? Why would he be interested in Oolong's clumsy performance? Magician Oolong's gaze landed on the yellow talisman in Tang Jinshan's hand. His eyes flashed with a strange light as he said excitedly, "Old Master, Can you let me take a look at this talisman? Tang Jinshan naturally didn't have a reason to refuse. Magician Oolong took the yellow talisman and looked at it carefully. Magician Nan Kuei and the young state teacher also came over and stared at the yellow talisman in his hand. The three of them exchanged glances and nodded. Their eyes flashed with greed. If they weren't wrong, this yellow talisman was a remnant soul-returning talisman. To them it was a rare treasure. Old master, where did you get this yellow talisman? Tang Jinshan said. What's the matter? Magician Oolong said. To tell you the truth, this talisman is called a remnant soul-returning talisman. We lost it a few days ago. With his eyesight, he could tell that this was a gift for Tang Jinshan to be buried with him, so that he wouldn't be a cripple in his next life. However, they definitely wouldn't have thought that this talisman was drawn by Jiang Xiu himself. First of all, the talisman was very old. It was over 100 years old. They guessed that it should have come from somewhere. Chapter 41. No matter how experienced Tang Jinshan was, when he heard this, a strange look flashed across his face. Wasn't he lying through his teeth? He saw Jiang Xiu draw this remnant soul-returning talisman with his own eyes. How did they lose it? Master Wulong said. Old man, please tell us the truth. Who gave you this talisman? Since he could give one as a gift, he must have more. Tang Jinshan was very experienced. How could he not see what Master Wulong and the others were planning? He had wronged Jiang Xiu once and paid the price with his arm. It was a bloody lesson. It's mine. Of the 3 sorcerers present, every single one of them was top-notch. Sorcerers had all sorts of strange tricks and unpredictable means. No matter how high Jiang Xiu's martial cultivation was, he had no chance of winning against 3 top-notch sorcerers. If he really held a grudge against Jiang Xiu for chopping off his arm, he would have sold Jiang Xiu out in a matter of minutes. From this, it could be seen that Tang Jinshan was quite an upright person. Humph. Master Wulong's arrogant disciple, Long Outyin snorted. Fourth brother Tang, don't lie to me. You're not a master and you don't know how to make talismans. Where did you get such a high-level talisman? If you don't tell us, I'll use a spell to put you to sleep. These words were not only rude, but also a threat. Tang Jinshan's expression changed. He also heard that masters could kill people without leaving a trace. They could make people die in their sleep without a sound. There was no way to investigate the cause of death. Tell me who gave it to you. The atmosphere was frozen. In the face of Long Outyin's domineering attitude, no one dared to say anything. They had long disliked Oolong and his gang's behavior. However, they could not afford to offend Long Outyin, so they could only look at Tang Jinshan sympathetically. The old man was in trouble. If he told them, it would be equivalent to betraying his friends. If he did not, it would be difficult to resolve. Wulong and the others were not easy to deal with. Seeing that Tang Jinshan was silent, Master Wulong said coldly, Old man, if you don't tell us, don't blame us for not caring about our past relationship. What past relationship? If there was, he, a mere disciple, would not dare to step on Tang Jinshan's head. Wulong had never respected him from the bottom of his heart. Otherwise, his disciple would not dare to call him fourth brother Tang in public. In terms of status, he, Tang Jinshan, was the one with the highest military rank in Rivertown. The Tang family could be said to be an aristocratic family in Rivertown. On the other hand, Master Wulong and the others were just Jianghu sorcerers. Their status could not be compared to him. It was precisely because Tang Jinshan knew how powerful they were that he feared them. Are you going to tell us or not? Master Wulong stepped closer. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. He looked like he was going to kill Tang Jinshan if he didn't tell him. It's from me. Suddenly, a voice was heard. Everyone looked over. It's him. It's actually him. Jiang Xiu slowly walked over from the dining table. Is he looking for death? Does he know who the other party is? Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu's eyes swept past Master Wulong, Master Nan Kuei, and the young state preceptor. This remnant soul talisman is a gift from me to accompany old Master Tang in his grave. It's you. Master Wulong's eyes flashed with joy. It's actually this kid. That's great. No wonder this kid could come in. He gave Tang Jinshan such a generous gift. How dare you steal my talisman? Jiang Xiu frowned. Your talisman? Master Wulong's narrowed eyes suddenly opened in anger. A fierce light flashed in them. Hurry up and hand over the rest. I can still spare your life. Otherwise, Jiang Xiu said. Otherwise what? Master Wulong said. Otherwise I'll let you die here. Hiss. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. How ruthless. Tang Jinshan's expression changed. Master Wulong, you're also a famous person in Jiangnan. Why are you making things difficult for a junior over a talisman? I'll give you this remnant soul talisman. As he spoke, he handed the talisman over. Some of the masters on the side also persuaded. That's right, Master Wulong. Don't lower yourself to this kid's level. It's an insult to your status. They didn't want to help Jiang Xiu. They just wanted to support Tang Jinshan. Yeah, forget it. There was no need for a person to be a blunder. How could a mere brat steal such a precious treasure right under his nose? Everyone's heart was like a mirror. They could only blame this kid for being unlucky. But they underestimated the greed of Master Wulong and the others. He didn't just want this remnant soul talisman. He wanted everything on Jiang Xiu. He wanted to squeeze out all the good things from this kid. They were sure that Jiang Xiu had other talismans on him that were on the same level as the remnant soul talisman. Master Wulong said, You dare to steal my treasure. If you don't hand over the rest of the talismans, I won't let you off easily. Jiang Xiu wasn't afraid at all. He even looked at him with interest. After returning, he had fought with martial artists, but he hadn't fought with anyone. Although this Master Wulong's cultivation wasn't that high and his spells weren't that strong, it still made him want to bully a weakling. What, you want to fight with me? Master Wulong, fight. I'll let you see the seat's methods. As soon as he finished speaking, his mouth suddenly closed. A strange darkness appeared on his face, and then disappeared without a trace. He suddenly opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of black fog. This black fog constantly changed its shape. It was like thousands of faces. There were children, adults, women and men. They struggled and roared in the black fog. They let out mournful cries as if they were evil spirits from the 9th level of hell. Ah! This scene gave the waiters, the timid magicians, and even Tang Wencheng a fright. They had never seen such a terrifying scene before. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. They didn't know whether to advance or retreat. This ghost controlling? Someone cried out involuntarily. Heavens, it really is. I didn't think that there would be someone who could control ghosts. Strong, so strong. Mages were responsible for exorcising evil spirits. Among the people, there were many mages who used unconventional methods to raise ghosts. Humans were already in awe of ghosts. Seeing his magical power, they were so scared that they trembled. Wulong was very satisfied when he saw the people present so scared. It was because he had such unimaginable methods that he boasted about being extraordinary. He even considered himself as an immortal. Why would he care about Jiang Xiu's lowly life? However, he saw that Jiang Xiu was calm and at ease. There was even some contempt in his eyes. He couldn't help but be furious. He shouted, Kid, I'll let the evil spirits devour you today. Jiang Xiu allowed the ferocious evil spirits in the black fog to wrap around him. Isn't he afraid? He's scared silly. Everyone looked at Jiang Xiu as if they were looking at an idiot. Why didn't he run? He could control ghosts to kill people. He didn't know how to run or kneel down to beg for mercy. He must be scared silly. After all, they were all mages. Even they were so scared by the ferocious evil spirits in front of them that their legs couldn't stop trembling. A little kid like him would be scared to death. Even if he didn't die, he would still be scared silly. Tang Wencheng kept retreating, and almost fell to the ground. However, he still said, Mr. Jiang, run. Hurry, the ghosts will eat you. He saw Jiang Xiu draw that talisman with his own eyes. He was very angry about it. He felt that if Jiang Xiu was killed because of this, he would die too unjustly. However, Jiang Xiu still turned a deaf ear and was calm. You're about to die, and you're still pretending. Pretending to be an expert. Jiang Xiu shook his head, looking very helpless. He was too disappointed. He thought that there would be some amazing methods. It was just raising ghosts. As long as he mastered the method, He could even raise ordinary people. Moreover, the ghosts he raised would all be scattered souls. They were like a plate of loose sand. You dare to call yourself an immortal? You dare to be arrogant in front of me? He was laughing his head off. Not only did Jiang Xiu not retreat, but he also closed in step by step. What was spiritual cultivation? The so-called spiritual cultivation. When calm, the wind and clouds will be by one side. When moving, thunder and lightning will follow. At this moment, a fierce wind blew in the inner court. The next moment, thunder rumbled in the sky. The momentum was so great that it shook the world. 9 heavens thunder technique. Jiang Xiu suddenly shouted. When he raised his hand to the sky, a lightning dragon came down from the dark clouds in the sky. Under everyone's stunned gaze, the bull-sized lightning was caught in his hand. The thunder kept exploding, illuminating the world as if it was daytime. His hair and clothes flew in the wind. His aura covered the world, as if a divine soldier had descended from the sky. Chapter 42. At this moment, Qin Weiping brought Bai Feng, Lin Jiadong, Cheng Feng, young Master Gu, and the others into the inner court. Along the way, Bai Feng told Qin Weiping about how they got beaten up at the wrong place. Qin Weiping was so angry that his face turned green. His nephew and a group of young masters had been bullied in their own territory. This was a loss of face. The 4 young masters were also smart. They didn't say that it was the Tang family who stepped in and pressured their parents to stop. Instead, they said that they didn't want to ruin Qin Weiping's reputation. The juniors were so sensible and righteous. Qin Weiping couldn't help but support them. He patted his chest and promised that he would seek justice for them and deal with Jiang Xiu. However, Bai Feng told him that Jiang Xiu had actually been brought into the inner court by Tang Wenchong. When Qin Weiping heard that, he was shocked. How could such an unpresentable person enter the inner court? Suddenly, they heard lightning and thunder, which gave them a shock. The sound was too loud, as if it was exploding right beside their ears. The light of day was so bright that they couldn't open their eyes. What's going on? Qin Weiping and the other organizers had already confirmed the weather today. It was sunny and there was no thunderstorm. Otherwise, they wouldn't have arranged it today and wouldn't have opened the inner court to the public. Moreover, the lightning was very strange. It was too close. It was so close. Everyone focused their eyes and were stunned. Their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They saw a person raising one hand into the sky and grabbing all the lightning in the sky. The lightning struggled in his hand and kept bursting out terrifying thunderous sounds. White and blue electric arcs kept flashing. His entire person was like a god in the legends. Damn, I must be seeing things. They rubbed their eyes hard, but they saw an even more terrifying scene. The person who looked like a god descending from the sky was actually dressed like a loser. He looked a little like the person who set up the fruit stall. It would have been better if they didn't look. The more they looked, the more similar they felt. Oh my god, I'm not seeing things, am I? The 4 young masters were stunned. No, it was impossible. They must be seeing things. It was impossible for someone to be able to hold lightning in his hand like a god. It could only be in a movie, and it must be in a Western movie. Even if there was such a person, it couldn't be the person who set up the fruit stall. Chi. Jiang Xiu held the thunderbolt in his hand and looked like a god. Thunderbolts kept exploding. He took one step at a time and walked toward Sorcerer Wulong. Chi bang bang. Electromagnetic waves surged wildly under his feet, and the green grass on the ground was all bent. Like ripples on the surface of the sea, they spread out in all directions. Everywhere they passed, the street lamps on the ground exploded on the spot. The plates on the dining table also exploded with a bang, and the stacked 3-dimensional 3-cone champagne collapsed with a loud bang. It was a complete mess, as if it had suffered a terrorist attack. Lightning. Controlling lightning. At this moment, everyone was stunned. Mage Wulong stared at the godlike Jiang Xiu, and was so shocked that his eyeballs almost fell out of their sockets. His body began to tremble as hot liquid flowed out from between his legs. He no longer cared about his identity as a Mage Wulong. His legs gave out as he fell to his knees. Exalted deity, spare me, spare me. I won't dare to do it again. Jiang Xiu's eyes turned cold and were filled with the light of day. He swung his arm violently and the thunderbolt in his hand surged forward like a thunder dragon. It flashed furiously in the air and rushed into the ghostly fog. Chi-chi. And evil things were the easiest to attract lightning. As the lightning flashed, countless tiny electric arcs exploded on top of it, like a net of lightning. The thousands of evil spirits in the ghost fog let out waves of shrill screams. They were defeated and destroyed upon contact, and disappeared without a trace in the blink of an eye. Boom. Along with the thunderbolt, it continued to charge towards Master Wulong. When Master Wulong saw the thunderbolt rushing towards him, he screamed in horror and tried his best to move back. The speed of the thunderbolt was extremely fast. With a loud bang, it collided with his body. The thunderbolt exploded and Sorcerer Wulong was sent flying, as if he had been hit by a heavy truck. The strength of the impact and the ferocity of the force was far beyond what a human could imagine. The entire inner court was illuminated as if it was daytime. Oh my God! Everyone present was dumbfounded. Is he still human? Sorcerer Nan Kuei, the young state preceptor, and the others looked normal, but in reality, their backs were completely drenched in sweat. Their legs under their long robes were trembling. If someone were to reach out and touch them at this moment, they would definitely fall to the ground. They had been in the spiritual world for so long, but they had never even heard of a person who could control thunderbolts and kill enemies from a distance, let alone see it. It was like watching a legend. The world praised them as immortals. *T. What is a god? This is a real god. Oh my God. Mr. Jiang. Tang Jinshan was so excited that he could not control himself. If he saw Jiang Xiu descending from the sky like a divine soldier when the car rushed out of the cliff, then Jiang Xiu would be a god showing his power. Exalted deity, spare me, spare me. Sorcerer Wulong did not die from the fall. After the intense pain, he crawled up and kowtowed desperately. I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. With trembling hands, he handed over the remnant soul talisman that he had taken from Tang Jinshan. Jiang Xiu said, "Didn't you say that this talisman was yours?" Sorcerer Wulong's expression was more bitter than if he had eaten a bitter gourd. I am shameless. I should not have coveted the exalted deity's talisman treasure. After thinking about it, this kind of self-criticism was not very effective. Slap. Sorcerer Wulong slapped himself hard. I am shameless. Slap. I am despicable. Slap. The four young masters in the distance had already seen clearly that the person standing in the middle of the field was indeed the person who had set up the fruit stall. Their faces were pale and cold sweat dripped down their foreheads. They also knew the person kneeling on the ground. He was the famous sorcerer Wulong in Jiangnan province. Young Master Gu had even eaten with him before. Even his father, Gu Shu, was respectful to Sorcerer Wulong. Even if his disciple spoke rudely, his father would still smile. However, at this moment, he was actually kneeling in front of the fruit stall. Sorcerer Wulong slapped himself hard one after another. The sound of the slaps was so loud that it was painful to watch. With a gulp, one of the four young masters swallowed hard. The four of them looked at each other. Compared to Sorcerer Wulong, they had only been slapped once. It seemed nothing much. At the same time, they sighed in their hearts. Fortunately, they had stopped at that time. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Slap. You are not even comparable to a pig or a dog. Jiang Xiu slowly walked in front of Sorcerer Wulong. He suddenly reached out a hand and pointed it at the top of Sorcerer Wulong's head. Suddenly, there was a surge of energy in his hand and many of Sorcerer Wulong's acupuncture points exploded. You, Sorcerer Wulong said in fear. You destroyed my mana? Killing him like this would be too easy for him. Didn't he boast about his divine powers? Then he would rob him of his most prideful thing, and let him have a taste of what it was like to be an ordinary person. With Sorcerer Wulong's personality, he must have offended many people. In the past, those people did not dare to speak up because of his strength. However, now that he had lost his mana, one could imagine Sorcerer Wulong's fate. Sorcerer Wulong's face was as white as a sheet of paper. Qin Weiping was even more shocked. He had always been an atheist. However, after witnessing Jiang Xiu wiping out the demons in the sky with lightning, his worldview was completely overturned. Furthermore, he realized that Jiang Xiu looked very familiar. Unknowingly, he walked towards Jiang Xiu. When he saw Jiang Xiu's face clearly, he excitedly shouted, "Master Luoxian, it's really you. I've finally found you. Master Luoxian." Everyone felt that this name was familiar. They suddenly remembered that sorcerer Wulong mentioned that there were 2.5 sorcerers in Jiangnan who were stronger than him. Wasn't he the one who was half a sorcerer stronger than him? Sorcerer Wulong's eyes widened. "You are Sorcerer Luoxian?" Heavens! There was more than hatred and regret in his heart. Even if he beat his chest and stamped his feet until he died, he would still feel wronged. The person in front of him was actually the Master Luoxia that Qin Weiping had mentioned. It was laughable that he had doubted whether what Qin Weiping said was true or false. Qin Weiping! Sorcerer Wulong roared crazily. "You betrayed me." If Qin Weiping had not walked away, if he had told him that Jiang Xiu was Master Luoxian, Sorcerer Wulong would not have been greedy and would not have ended up like this. Qin Weiping was at a loss. "What does it have to do with me? Little Feng, come here. Uncle will introduce you to a real sorcerer, Master Luoxian." Chapter 43. Bai Feng and the other 4 young masters were embarrassed. At first, they didn't even take Jiang Xiu seriously. His clothes from a roadside stall didn't even cost 300 yuan. When they heard that Jiang Xiu's family had a fruit stall, they looked down on him and treated him as a joke. But now, Tang Jinshan was respectful to him. Qin Weiping saw him as his savior, and Master Wulong, who even dared to point at Gu Shu and scold his disciple, was kowtowing and begging for mercy. Even if you were worth hundreds of millions, even if you had great power, you could only bow down in front of Jiang Xiu, not daring to say a single word. What was a big shot? This was a big shot. The 4 young masters lowered their heads. Compared to him, they were nothing. It was like children playing house. Jiang Xiu stood proudly, pressuring everyone present to bow down. Master Luoxia." Bai Feng said. I thought you He, who was always eloquent, was stuttering at this moment. Seeing him like this, Tang Wenchong felt good from head to toe. "Weren't you very arrogant just now? You put me on the spot. Now let's see how you're going to deal with this." Master Luoxia. No wonder he said that I'm not qualified to be his opponent. No wonder he still said that the 4 young masters were not qualified to be his opponent. Not to mention them, even Tang Jinshan, Qin Weiping, and the top sorcerers present were not qualified to be his opponent. "Why are you stuttering?" Qin Weiping said to Jiang Xiu apologetically. "Master Luoxia, please don't take offense. He's just a child who hasn't seen the world, and was frightened by Master's magical power. Please forgive him." Jiang Xiu glanced at Bai Feng coldly. The latter's face turned purple and white. If there was a hole in the ground, he would definitely crawl in and never come out. Tang Jinshan said, "Weiping, your nephew and these people just threatened to chase Master Luoxia out of the club." "What?" Qin Weiping immediately glared at Bai Feng. Bai Feng quickly lowered his head. Qin Weiping was furious. He had placed all his hopes on Jiang Xiu. If this brat ruined everything, even killing him wouldn't be enough. "Apologize to Grandmaster Luoxia." Jiang Xiu smiled coldly. "He's not qualified." Bai Feng and the others were very depressed. Originally, they wanted to suck up to the young master and put down their pride to apologize to him. Now, even though there was no need for them to apologize, it was even more embarrassing than an apology. So in his eyes, she was nothing. Qin Weiping said, Yes. Master Luo naturally wouldn't lower himself to the level of a child. Speaking of apologizing, Qin Weiping should be the one who should apologize the most. At that time, Jiang Xiu had volunteered to help them for the sake of Nangong Ko. But Qin Weiping had belittled Jiang Xiu. Now he wanted to let it go so easily. What kind of person was Jiang Xiu? If he was so easy to get along with, how many people would really respect him? They would probably all flatter him and pretend to obey while disobeying behind his back. Qin Weiping said, "Grandmaster, that Zhang Taizhan is a swindler. That day, I also misunderstood the words of that scoundrel. As a result, the supernatural incident at the Wanzhiguang City project has become more and more intense. Now it's even affected the Runha Road outside. Jiang Xiu didn't bat an eyelid. That Zhang Taizhan wasn't bad. In terms of the strength of his magic power, although it was far from the black dragon mage that he had crippled and was now being carried away, he still had real skills. Calling him a swindler was an exaggeration. Grandmaster, please help us solve this problem for Wanzhiguang City. Jiang Xiu could already tell that today's banquet wasn't an ancient magic tool appraisal event at all. Instead, it was an excuse to gather real mages and solve the supernatural incident at the Wanzhiguang City project. The organizer's soul altar explained everything. Tang Jinshan also said, "Yes, please help us, Mr. Jiang." Jiang Xiu said, "Of course I can help." Qin Weiping was overjoyed. "But what can you give to me?" Qin Weiping wasn't surprised. If he wanted a top mage like Jiang Xiu to help, of course there were conditions. He asked, "What does Grandmaster Luo want?" "Wanzhiguang City will definitely help you." Jiang Xiu said, "You can't give me most of what I want. At most, you can give me some ordinary things. I want 50% of your shares." Hua. The crowd was in an uproar. This was too greedy. Qin Weiping's eyes widened. He and Nangong Qin had more than 70% of the shares. If they gave 50% to Jiang Xiu, then they would only have 20% left. If they even lost control of the group, wouldn't that be the same as working for Jiang Xiu? Grandmaster Luo is joking, right? Jiang Xiu said. Think about it yourself. 50% of the shares, no less. If you're willing, I'll help. If not, you can find someone else. It was very fair. He didn't insist. Qin Weiping's expression became extremely ugly. When Nangong Ko had asked him to come here for free, he had rejected her. Now she was asking for half of his net worth, and he really wanted to slap himself in the face. It was impossible for him to give up 50% of Wanzhiguang City's shares. According to his expectations, it was between 10 million and 50 million. Jiang Xiu said, "Since that's the case, then I'll take my leave." Seeing that Jiang Xiu was about to leave, Tang Jinshan and Tang Wenchong hurriedly chased after him. The Qin family didn't want to do this business, but the Tang family had invited Jiang Xiu. How could they let him go so easily? "Mr. Jiang, wait. The banquet hasn't started yet. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Those mediocre people outside don't deserve to eat with you. I'll ask Wenchong to set up a separate banquet table. I'll drink with you." Jiang Xiu was really hungry. In fact, it was very difficult for him to control lightning with his divine power. It consumed a lot of energy, and he was really hungry. All right. Seeing that Jiang Xiu had left, the sorcerers present breathed a sigh of relief, especially Sorcerer Nan Kuei and the young state preceptor. Oolong was their good friend. Fortunately, he wasn't implicated. As for Long Outyen, that brat, he had already escaped. Oolong wasn't a good person to begin with, and his disciple's character wasn't any better. President Qin were also first-class sorcerers. In terms of magic power, we might not lose to Master Luo Di. The one who spoke was Sorcerer Nan Kuei. Since Jiang Xiu wasn't here, he could brag all he wanted. He had completely forgotten that he was almost paralyzed with fear. No matter how awesome Jiang Xiu was, he wouldn't allow others to brag. Oh, Qin Weiping's eyes lit up. That's right. Just because Jiang Xiu wasn't involved, it didn't mean that he was the only one who could solve the Wanzhiguang City project. Sorcerer Nan Kuei was also present. He was also a first-class sorcerer. He was known as the #1 sorcerer in Nanyue. That's right. If Sorcerer can help me solve the supernatural problem of the Wanzhiguang City project, I'm willing to pay 10 million, no 50 million. As long as it could be solved, he didn't care about such a small amount of money. If he couldn't solve it, he would go bankrupt. Why would he care about 40 million? This wasn't the time to be stingy. Alright. Sorcerer Nan Kuei didn't do it for money. If he wanted to earn money, it would be very easy. What he wanted was to solve the Wanzhiguang City project that Jiang Xiu wasn't willing to help. He wanted to become famous in the industry. That's right, where's that soul altar from just now? Sorcerer Nan Kuei knew that the supernatural incident of the Wanjiaguang City project had a lot to do with that soul altar. You're saying that the supernatural incident is related to that soul altar? Sorcerer Nan Kuei said, That's right. Another sorcerer interrupted. Sorcerer Nan Kuei, that soul altar was sealed perfectly. Even if there was something inside, it wouldn't be able to come out and cause trouble. The supernatural incident of Wanjiaguang City definitely has nothing to do with the soul altar. Qin Weiping nodded when he heard this. He felt that the sorcerer's words made sense. Sorcerer Nan Kuei smiled faintly. Without Jiang Xiu suppressing him, he gradually regained his former vigor. Although the soul altar is still sealed, don't forget that it was buried 10 feet underground by someone. Legend has it that 10 feet underground can lead to the underworld. Now that the soul altar has been taken out, it has lost this important link. Without one of the two, do you think it can still be suppressed? The sorcerer's expression changed when he heard this. The young imperial tutor smiled faintly and said, Of course. The sorcerer felt a little embarrassed and said, The soul altar is something from hundreds of years ago. It was still sealed with such great fanfare. Sorcerer Nan Kuei, do you have the ability of a god like Master Luoxia to subdue the evil spirit inside? Sorcerer Nan Kuei shook his head and said, From the looks of the sealing talisman, it's a high-level talisman. The ancestor who could use this kind of talisman must have been a Foundation establishment expert. Even he couldn't directly kill the evil spirit inside and could only seal it. I don't have the ability to do so. At most, he was at the first level of Qi disciple. There was a huge difference between him and Foundation establishment. The method I used was to strengthen the seal on top and bury it 10 feet underground. It would be safe. Qin Weiping nodded and said, That's reasonable. What about the soul altar? The soul altar. The soul altar had fallen down at some point and shattered into pieces. Inside was a black object with disgusting black liquid flowing out. There was also white smoke coming out. Instantly, everyone quieted down. Chapter 44. After a long silence, Qin Weiping was the first to speak. His voice trembled involuntarily. The soul altar was broken and the thing inside came out? No one answered. This was an obvious question, and no one was willing to answer. No one dared to think further. It was terrifying to think about. At this moment, it was as if they were drowning in fear. The sorcerer from before asked with a pale face, Sorcerer Nan Kuei, you just said that even Foundation establishment cultivators can't kill the evil spirit sealed inside. They can only find a way to seal it? Nan Kuei was so nervous he didn't dare to move. That's Foundation establishment. If it was us. He didn't continue, but everyone knew the answer. How could they possibly deal with something that could only be sealed 100 feet under the temple? Everyone's gaze was fixed on the cracked soul altar on the ground. They stared at the black liquid that flowed all over the ground, and the cold smoke that escaped. In the sky, rolling black clouds appeared out of nowhere, and instantly covered the bright moon. The sky darkened, and everyone was filled with fear, as if something terrifying was about to happen. Whoosh! Look, what's that? Someone pointed at the darkness in the distance. There seemed to be something swaying in the darkness, and it was constantly approaching. Everyone's hair stood on end. A few of the braver ones looked over, wanting to see what it was. However, a gust of cold wind blew over, and their eyes suddenly turned white. The eyes were the windows to the soul. Their lifeless eyes made them look lifeless, like zombies that had lost their souls. After the cold wind passed, everyone's eyes changed, as if they were infected by a virus. They no longer communicated with each other. They turned around and began to walk outside. They were scattered and without any pattern. Qin Weiping, Bai Feng, Lin Jiadong, Li Chengfeng, Master Gu, the sorcerers present, Sorcerer Nan Kuei, and the young Grand Tutor entered the banquet hall in a daze. There was an auction going on inside. The Tang family was indeed business-minded. They would never let go of any opportunity to make money. The things that they took out for auction were not very popular. Of course, this was relative. At least, they had to be genuine antiques. Coupled with some mythical stories to package them, they could naturally be sold for a good price. The item being auctioned now was a compass. It was called the Acupoint Locating Gold Dispersing Ghost Hunting Instrument. It was said that it was owned by a certain commandant during the Tang dynasty. It could be said to be a top-grade ancient magic tool. Sorcerers could catch ghosts with it, and ordinary people would avoid evil spirits with it. It could even be used to guard the house. He was practically omnipotent. Alright, 3 million going once. 3 million going twice. In 2008, a house in Jiangqing City was only worth about 300,000 renminbi. 3 million renminbi was a sky-high price for the average wage earner. Even for the rich and powerful, 3 million renminbi wasn't a small sum. Selling a pile of scrap metal for 3 million yuan was more than enough for the Tang family. 3 million going thrice sold. There was a burst of applause in the hall. The person who bought the compass was a middle-aged man. He looked very rich, wore a suit, and had a big belly. Congratulations, CEO Wang. Congratulations. CEO Wang raised the glass of red wine in his hand and gestured to all the VIPs present. Then he downed the wine in one gulp, as if he had spent 3 million to buy a piece of scrap metal. Then he strode up the stage. Yi Wenchen and the others below were fascinated. 3 million renminbi. He had casually spent 3 million renminbi to buy such a small thing. It was really a big deal. Lin Shu said, "When will I be able to become someone like that?" His family's assets were around 20 to 30 million, but that was all they had. Not to mention him. Even his father was far from being able to casually spend 3 million renminbi to buy a small thing. After CEO Wang went up on stage, the staff carefully handed him the compass. CEO Wang held it in his hand as if he was holding a trophy. He even had to raise it up high to show off to the people present. Only then did he take it down to examine it carefully. The compass was made of bronze and was densely engraved with small dots. They were arranged in a circle, and the circle shrank inwards. In the center of the compass was its core, a needle. CEO Wang shook it a few times and said, "Why isn't the needle moving?" Usually, the needle of a compass could definitely move. Moreover, if it encountered a strange magnetic field, the compass would move very quickly. The beautiful auctioneer said with a smile, "CEO Wang, this is a real magic item. The needle will only move when there are ghosts." CEO Wang shook it a few times. He felt that something was wrong. There was a chip on the compass, a large piece was missing, and there was a crack in the middle. In addition, the needle could not move. He muttered in his heart and could not help but say, This can't be broken, right?" The auctioneer still had a smile on her face. "How can it be? This is an ancient magic item. It's definitely a high-grade item." CEO Wang said, "No matter what, the needle should be able to move, right?" "Hey, it's moving." The compass in his hand that had not moved for a long time suddenly moved. The beautiful auctioneer was stunned when she heard that. They had tried the compass before. The needle seemed to be stuck. In any case, it could not move no matter what they did. It was basically determined that it was broken. Back then, they had considered giving up on the auction of the compass. However, someone said that if the needle could not move, it would be like a real magic item. These words convinced everyone. Wow. It's moving so violently. Even the entire compass started to vibrate. The auctioneer looked over suspiciously, and his eyes immediately widened. The needle on the compass started to spin rapidly, as if an electric fan was turned on. "You just said that this ancient compass will only move when there are ghosts?" Everyone looked up and saw a group of people walking in from the inner court. Qin Weiping, Bai Feng. One after another, they walked into the banquet hall. Their eyes were all filled with white light, and they ignored everyone present as they staggered through the banquet hall. Their appearance was like a germ that was contagious. CEO Wang's eyes flashed and turned into a white glow. It spread at a speed visible to the naked eye. The eyes of the people who were originally sitting there turned white as well. They stood up and walked out with the others. Jiang Xiu was on the second floor of the banquet hall. He stood on the floor-to-ceiling window. Tang Zhinshan and Tang Wenchong, who were beside him, were extremely shocked. What's going on? They seem to be possessed. Where are they going? Jiang Xiu drank a glass of wine. It was a 30-year-old 70-degree Maotai that Tang Jinshan had treasured. Of course, they're going to the construction site of the Wanji Guangqing project. Tang Jinshan's expression changed. Mr. Jiang said that this is the work of the Wanji Guangqing project? Jiang Xiu smiled faintly and did not comment. Tang Jinshan said, this Qin family is really harmful. More than half of the influential people in Rivertown are gathered here. If something happens, Rivertown will be in chaos. Jiang Xiu put down his glass and said, let's go to the construction site and watch the show. Tang Jinshan and Tang Wenchong looked at each other. They were a little scared. This matter was too strange. They did not want to watch the show. What if they were possessed? But when they thought of Jiang Xiu, they thought that nothing would happen. It was almost 11 o'clock. Along the way, the influential people came out of the clubhouse in groups. They were like zombies on the streets. Baden was not far from the construction site. They walked all the way to the construction site. Because of the supernatural incident, the construction site's iron gate was locked. Qin Weiping, who was walking at the front, came out of nowhere and pushed the iron gate open. Seeing this scene, the Tang family's grandfather and grandson were stunned. Was he still human? Then those people stepped on the iron gate and entered the construction site. What are they doing? Tang Jinshan and his grandson thought that something terrible would happen, but the result was completely unexpected. After they entered the construction site, they lay down on the ground quietly, as if they were sleeping. Jiang Xiu said, where's the rooster that I asked you to prepare? Throw it in. Tang Wenchong threw the rooster directly into the construction site. The rooster raised its arms and opened its mouth to crow. Woo woo woo. When the rooster crowed, all the people who were sleeping suddenly woke up. Then everyone cried out in surprise. Where is this? Why am I here? Qin Weiping hurriedly got up from the ground. How could he not recognize his own construction site? His face turned pale. Chapter 45. Qin Weiping knew that he had been tricked. He had been tricked. Instantly, all the hairs on his body stood on end. Beside him was the self-proclaimed awesome Master Nan Kuei. At this moment, he wasn't much better than Qin Weiping. His face was pale as he stared fearfully into the darkness. The surrounding nobles were in a complete mess. Ghost. They were still at the banquet when they suddenly woke up to find themselves lying on a construction site that was haunted. One could imagine how terrifying that was. They screamed in fear and ran away like crazy. At this moment, they didn't have any of the elegance of the upper class. They swarmed towards the entrance of the construction site. Even if a lady fell, no one cared. Cheng Lingsu and the other girls were also running away from the crowd in fear. Susu. Mom. Like refugees, it was a complete mess. How did this happen? Qin Weiping's face was pale. He was shocked and scared, but he was also furious. He grabbed Master Nan Kuei's collar and shouted, didn't you say that your magic was stronger than Master Luoxia's? You give me an explanation. The previous supernatural incidents were just rumors. After all, these nobles didn't see it with their own eyes. Now more than half of Jiang City's nobles had experienced it. If this spread, the Wanji Guangqing project would definitely be ruined. There were even government officials involved. Master Nan Kuei was also stunned. He didn't know what had happened and how he had been tricked. The soul altar was broken and the things inside broke out. Now no one can save this land. Qin Weiping felt like all the energy in his body had been sucked out. He let go of his hands. The fear and anger on his face disappeared and were replaced by endless disappointment. The Wanji Guangqing project was over. It was completely over. Bai Feng slowly recovered from the shock. He didn't run. It wasn't that he wasn't afraid, but he couldn't run away like the others. He reminded, why don't we find Master Luoxia? Qin Weiping said, he wants half of my shares. Bai Feng said, if we can't solve it, the Wanji project will be stopped by the government. At that time, the interest from the bank will crush Wanji. They can only declare bankruptcy. Qin Weiping. These words were like a sharp knife stabbing into his chest. Of course, he knew that if the project was stopped, Wan Ji could only go bankrupt, but he didn't dare to think about it. He didn't want to think about it. Bai Feng said. Even if it's 50% less, there's still more than 20% left. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a single point left. While they were talking, apart from the mages and those who were brave enough to stay at the construction site, almost everyone else had run away. The construction site regained its silence. Qin Weiping said in despair, "That's the only way." He wanted to look for Jiang Xiu, but he didn't have a way to contact him. Of course, he had to call Tang Jinshan. However, the phone rang at the entrance of the construction site. Jiang Xiu, accompanied by the grandfather and grandson of the Tang family, was walking in from outside the construction site. They didn't look like they were possessed. When he saw Jiang Xiu, Qin Weiping's heart was in turmoil. The wealth that he had painstakingly accumulated over half of his youth was going to be handed over to him. He was really unwilling. "Mage, I'm willing to use 50% of Wan Ji's shares as compensation to ask you to help solve the supernatural situation here." When he said those words, he still had an unwilling expression on his face. It felt as if Jiang Xiu was extorting him. Jiang Xiu didn't say anything, as if he had already expected this. He walked over slowly and said calmly, "That's the price just now." Qin Weiping's eyes suddenly swept over. "What do you mean?" Jiang Xiu said, 70%. Wow. There was another uproar in the construction site. This was too ruthless. It was as if he wanted Qin Weiping's life. He and Nangong Qin only had 70% of the shares combined. Great, he took all of it with just one word. What? Qin Weiping couldn't believe his ears. Jiang Xiu said, "I gave you a chance. 50% was my gift. It's you who didn't cherish it. Now it's 70%. I won't accept any less." Qin Weiping's face alternated between green and white. At this moment, he finally understood what kind of person he was facing. The pride of a powerhouse didn't allow him to bargain. Just as he said, 50% was his gift. If Jiang Xiu didn't help, the Wanji Guangqing project would definitely be ruined. Qin Weiping's fate would be bankruptcy. At that time, he had at least 20% of the shares. Now all that was left was dregs. Tang Jinshan and his grandson both sighed in their hearts. Fortunately, the Tang family reacted quickly and made amends for offending Jiang Xiu once. Otherwise, they would definitely end up like Qin Weiping now. In their hearts, they respected Jiang Xiu even more. A powerhouse shouldn't be humiliated. Qin Weiping said angrily, "Grandmaster Luo, you're too greedy. You want my entire fortune in one go. If I give you 70% of Wanji's shares, what would I do with this project?" Jiang Xiu said, "You can refuse. No one is forcing you. However, let me remind you, those few shares are also a gift from me. I can wait until you go bankrupt before taking over." The thing in the soul altar had already come out. This place would become his territory. In the past, or perhaps in ancient times, if there were supernatural incidents that couldn't be solved, then no one would go there and let it be abandoned. But could it be done now? The country was doing a lot of construction, and this place happened to be in the center of the city. Could it just be abandoned? Definitely not. In the end, after the government took back the land, they would have to find Jiang Xiu to deal with it. Not only would they have to ask Jiang Xiu to take over the land, but they would also have to pay Jiang Xiu to complete the construction. Therefore, those few shares were also Jiang Xiu's gift. Qin Weiping's face was completely pale. He knew that Jiang Xiu wasn't lying. Don't forget, the Tang family stood behind him. When the time came, Jiang Xiu would take over the land and develop it. The government would have to give him more money. Then the Tang family would be able to operate it. If they wanted to build a residential area or a shopping mall, Wanji would have nothing to do with it. He thought about how dejected he would be after he went bankrupt. He wouldn't even have the capital to make a comeback. If he gave Jiang Xiu 70%, he would at least have a few points left. If the project was profitable, he would still have tens of millions. Thinking about this, he said sadly, I agree to Grandmaster Luo's conditions." Everyone present sighed when they heard this. In the end, he agreed. Jiang Xiu nodded slightly. "Wanji's project will still be managed by you. I won't interfere." Well, he still had to sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' labor. Wanji Guangqing was Qin Weiping's painstaking effort. He also had the capital to make a comeback. He also didn't want Jiang Xiu to interfere. Even if Jiang Xiu was resourceful, when it came to the way of business, he felt that he was miles ahead of Jiang Xiu. After he finished speaking, Jiang Xiu walked alone into the darkness of the construction site. Such a big tone. The moment he opened his mouth, he asked for someone's entire value. When the time comes, if he can't solve the problem, he'll lose a lot of face, Grandmaster Nan Kuei muttered. That's an existence that even Foundation establishment ancestors can't do anything about. The young state preceptor also said, let's talk about it when he's alive. Jiang Xiu didn't walk for long before a quiet path appeared in front of him. Then he walked along the path at a moderate pace. When he looked up again, there was a temple at the end of the path. When he arrived in front of the temple, the plaque on the door read, Temple of the Perfected Lord. There were many perfected lords, whether it was a Chinese legend or a position. Jiang Xiu smiled faintly. This person could be fooled. It was like entering a city hall and seeing a door with the words Director's Office written on it. God knows what kind of director it was. Jiang Xiu walked forward. Without knocking, he directly reached out and pushed the door. The door slowly opened. The night was dark, but the scenery in the temple was clearly illuminated. There was a floor path that led to the main hall. A huge statue of a god stood upright in the hall. Its face was ferocious and its aura was shocking. In front of the statue, there was still incense burning on the incense burner. Smoke rose in spirals. The surroundings were terrifyingly quiet. It was as silent as death. Even the sound of the wind couldn't be heard. If it were anyone else, they would definitely have goosebumps. Jiang Xiu said, "Come out and meet me." After he finished speaking, the black eyeballs in Jiang Xiu's eyes gradually opened. Then his entire eyes turned black. His entire temperament suddenly changed. In the hall, a violent wind blew, accompanied by flashes of lightning and the rumbling of thunder. Just this aura alone wasn't something that a demon could do. You're not human. Chapter 46. You're the one who's not human. Jiang Xiu's eyes narrowed into a line. Under his gaze, the world turned black and white. His gaze swept across the temple, and the statue suddenly turned red. He smiled faintly and said, "Still not showing yourself? Are you waiting for me to drag you out?" That thing let out a terrifying sound. "If you want me to show myself, then we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Don't send me to the wolf's mouth. You're asking for a beating." Jiang Xiu suddenly moved. His entire body had already soared into the air, bringing along a pitch-black fog behind him. His entire body had already rushed towards the statue and suddenly grabbed it. The other party was obviously shocked. Jiang Xiu had actually locked onto his position in an instant. But just as Jiang Xiu's hand was about to grab the statue rippled like water. Then, Jiang Xiu's hand swept across. Catoptric deflection? This little evil spirit had some ability. Ignorant and inexperienced. How is this catoptric deflection? This is countless catoptric deflection. It's called 3,000 thoughts. Brat, you can enter, but you can't leave. Jiang Xiu was shocked. Catoptric deflection was a layer of illusion. One layer was real and one layer was fake. It was a small trick. But if it was 3,000 thoughts, then it would be troublesome. There were countless similar illusory worlds inside, and if there was really only one, then it would be very troublesome to find it. If it was the previous Jiang Xiu, he wouldn't have to think too much. No matter how many spells there were, he would cut them all down with one sword. All spells would be destroyed by his incomparably sharp sword light. But now spiritual cultivation was still a pink and tender little god cultivator. A little baby who had just awakened. He didn't have that much power at all. Ha ha ha. That evil spirit laughed wildly, as if what awaited Jiang Xiu was his devastation. But he saw Jiang Xiu's cold and indifferent eyes. "You think I can't break your spell? Ignorant, stupid." His hands moved quickly as he lightly spat out 3,000 thoughts. Boom. Jiang Xiu had collected countless cultivation arts from the immortal martial continent. An illusory technique like 3,000 thoughts was merely a minor Tao. It was basically impossible for it to reach the level of elegance. Jiang Xiu had always been disdainful of such techniques. In the eyes of experts, illusory techniques had no way to hide. However, in a battle of lower levels, illusory techniques could still be of some use. If not, there wouldn't be any value for illusory techniques to exist. No, that's impossible. How could you? 3,000 thoughts versus 3,000 thoughts. As long as the two forces collided, a world that could truly cause a collision of power would be real. Bang! In the temple, a golden light exploded. Come out now. The light in Jiang Xiu's eyes flashed explosively as he activated his technique. A golden light from a talisman descended from the sky, and his entire person descended rapidly from midair. With a pung, he slammed the golden talisman heavily onto the ground. Hong, an unimaginably powerful divine power erupted from the golden talisman, spreading out in all directions. Everything in the surroundings was like tofu, blown apart and destroyed by the airflow. Then the entire ancient temple disappeared without a trace. Quick look, it's Mr. Jiang. The illusion was broken, and Tang Wenchong saw Jiang Xiu in the distance. The others all saw him as well. At the same time, they also saw a huge shadow floating in the darkness in the distance. It's appeared. A huge monster could be faintly seen in the sky, hibernating in the darkness. Nan Kuei said in horror. What a terrifying aura, such powerful spiritual energy. This is a ghost king, right? The young state teacher was also extremely shocked. Yes. The so-called ghost king surpassed the limits of ghosts, and had power close to that of immortals. Whoosh! You've angered me. The ghost king angrily roared. Its body seemed to be one with the pitch-black sky as it charged towards Jiang Xiu. It felt as if the sky was pressing down on him. Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xiu didn't move at all, standing proudly with his hands behind his back. His hair and clothes fluttered in the wind. Even in the face of such a terrifying existence, he was still proud. He slightly raised his head, and his eyes were still filled with endless majesty and disdain. Hurry up and dodge. At this moment, everyone's heart was nervous to the extreme. Boom. Seeing that the Ghost King was about to pounce on Jiang Xiu, he suddenly punched the ground. The ground couldn't withstand his attack, and it exploded inch by inch. Strong light shot out from underground like a fountain, illuminating the entire construction site as if it was daytime. A complicated light array was reflected in the Ghost King's eyes. The light formation that was reflected in his eyes had been set up by Jiang Xiu before Jiang Xiu had entered his illusion. Jiang Xiu's current cultivation was still too weak. If he relied on his own strength, he might not be able to kill Jiang Xiu. He might even end up in a sorry state. Therefore, he had set up this ceiling formation in advance. This was like a hunter setting up a trap first, then using himself as bait to lure the other party in. The Ghost King shouted in horror. Who the hell are you? With a whoosh, the ceiling array formed a huge suction force and suddenly sucked the Ghost King in. The light of the array immediately disappeared, and the world returned to darkness. A sparkling ball of light floating in the air suddenly seemed to lose control and fell from the sky. Jiang Xiu stretched out his hand, and the bead steadily fell into his hand. The power is very pure. If all goes well, I should be able to enter the second awakened realm after absorbing it. HM? The bead trembled violently. Sir, please spare my life. Please spare my life. Jiang Xiu was a little surprised. After being sealed by him, it could still transmit its voice. First, it could transmit 3,000 thoughts, and now it could transmit its voice through the seal. This thing was not simple. Who taught you this magic? It was the true Lord who taught me. Please spare my life. Jiang Xiu asked, why did he teach you? This little one has been guarding the true Lord Temple for more than 500 years, and I'm about to succeed. Please spare my life. This little one will never forget it. Jiang Xiu said. So what if you succeed? You're still just a ghost immortal. The Ghost King was stunned. What an arrogant tone. It was as if he didn't even put a ghost immortal in his eyes. That was the height he wanted to reach in his life. Sir, of course you don't put a ghost immortal in your eyes. However, I've been cultivating for hundreds of years in order to one day become a ghost immortal. Please spare my life. Jiang Xiu muttered to himself. Suddenly, black smoke came out of the bead and shot forward. Jiang Xiu frowned and said coldly, "You want to escape?" He made a hand seal and pointed a finger at the black smoke. A streak of divine light flashed out, and an extremely shrill scream rang out. Chi-chi. The black smoke seemed to have been pierced through by an invisible light. Jiang Xiu raised the bead with his left hand and pointed at it with his right. The black smoke that was about to dissipate suddenly gathered back into the bead. "You're too impatient. If you had waited a little longer, I might have let you go. Now you've lost your life." All of the sorcerers present were stunned. Killed. This is too. They were speechless. The Ghost King couldn't even be killed by his ancestors in the Foundation establishment stage, and could only be sealed. You killed him with a point of your finger. How could it be so terrifying? Nan Kuei and the young state preceptor were shocked beyond words. They couldn't imagine what level Jiang Xiu's sorcery had reached. The Foundation establishment stage? It couldn't be. No one had ever heard of anyone reaching the Foundation establishment stage since the Republic of China. Those who could reach the Qi refining stage were already top sorcerers. Moreover, Jiang Xiu was so young. Qin Weiping squeezed out a sentence after a long time. "That's it." The students and Chairman Qin's heart had completely collapsed at this moment. It didn't even take a minute, and it was done. 70% of his shares were given to him just like that. Jiang Xiu walked back and said, "It's done. Tomorrow the construction site can resume." After that, he ignored Qin Weiping and walked straight out. "Mr. Jiang, let me send you off." Tang Wencheng drove Jiang Xiu back to school. When he got out of the car, Tang Wencheng handed him a bank card and said, "Mr. Jiang, this is your reward." Jiang Xiu certainly didn't refuse. This was what he deserved. Although he got 70% of Wan Ji's shares, he still had to wait until he made money before he could receive dividends. This 100% just happened to solve his urgent needs. "Mr. Jiang, have a safe trip." When Jiang Xiu returned to the dormitory, it was almost 11 o'clock. The animals in the dormitory were all gone. Some of them sneaked out to surf the internet. He was just about to cultivate when his phone rang. Whoosh, it was his mother calling him more than 10 times. He hurriedly picked it up. "Hello, Mom. Minor repairs. Why didn't you pick up the phone?" "I was just reading and didn't bring my phone." Jiang Xiu casually made up an excuse and asked, "Mom, why are you calling me so late?" "Minor repairs. Did you quarrel with Susu?" Chapter 47. Hearing this, Jiang Xiu roughly understood what was going on. Maybe the Cheng family told his parents that he had signed the agreement to cancel the engagement. However, he still said, "No, why?" Lin Yueling said, "Your auntie Sun called and insisted that you cancel the engagement with Su Su." Today Jiang Xiu beat up the 4 young masters. If the Cheng family wanted to survive in Jiangnan, how could they dare to marry Jiang Xiu, who had offended the 4 young masters? Moreover, she didn't like Jiang Xiu to begin with. She hurriedly returned home and called Lin Yueling, saying that she wanted to cancel the engagement no matter what. However, Lin Yueling didn't tell her the reason. She just said that her son had offended the rich and powerful, so the Cheng family decided to cancel the engagement. She just said that Jiang Xiu and Cheng Lingsu weren't suitable for each other. Jiang Xiu said, "They can do whatever they want." When he had signed his name, he had already planned it out. Lin Yueling said, "How can you do that? You didn't do anything wrong to Su Su, right? As long as you do your best, it's fine. Don't worry about this matter. Focus on your studies." After saying this, Lin Yueling hung up the phone. In her previous life, although Jiang Xiu insisted on the engagement, Jiang Yi and Lin Yueling couldn't let it go either. In that era, it was a huge sum of money. Then Jiang Yi used his position to benefit the Cheng family, and even went to jail. In their hearts, they definitely felt that the Cheng family owed them. How could they be willing to cancel the engagement? Forget it. Let nature take its course. I'll cultivate first. Jiang Xiu was a cultivation maniac. He had a stubborn hobby for cultivation. Just like the animals in his dorm who loved to play games, he would feel uncomfortable if he didn't cultivate for a day. Not to mention, the newly acquired soul energy could raise his cultivation significantly. He slowly opened his hand, and the bead flew into the air, exuding a faint glow. Jiang Xiu closed his eyes and began to use a secret technique to absorb the power within the bead. Awakened level 1 is still too weak. Controlling lightning almost drained me. In the end, he wasn't even able to use the lightning art, and had to throw it out. The power of the ghost was indeed very pure. The ghost claimed that it was guarding the temple for the true Lord who built the true Lord temple. Now that he thought about it, the possibility was not high. If that was the case, it could be considered a ghost servant of the true Lord. Why would the true Lord seal it? After being sealed, the growth of a ghost servant would be very slow. Pop pop pop. The blood energy within Jiang Xiu's body surged, and his entire body emitted a bright red light. His muscles bulged and his bones became as hard as steel. His bloodline appeared on the surface of his body. The distribution of his bloodline was completely different from that of humans. It looked like the pattern of some ancient divine beast. Ah! Jiang Xiu made a sound that was both painful and excited. At this time, his eyes were completely black, and blood was flowing from them. He looked indescribably ferocious. The most obvious change was that there was an additional divine pattern on his arm. Jiang Xiu didn't know what his divine body was, or how many divine patterns there were in the awakening stage. According to his judgment, the more divine patterns there were, the stronger they were. When a complete divine pattern was formed, it would give birth to a special ability unique to the Protoss. He was very much looking forward to it. Many Protoss abilities were far superior to spells. Unknowingly, the sky outside was already bright. Jiang Xiu finished his training and went to the bathroom to take a shower. He let his boiling blood cool down. He looked at himself in the mirror. His appearance had changed again. His facial features were more three-dimensional. How should he put it? Before, Jiang Xiu was photoshopped. Now Jiang Xiu was photoshopped. Even more obvious was his height. He seemed to have grown another 2 or 3 centimeters, making him look even taller. At noon in the cafeteria, he coincidentally met Cheng Lingsu, Ouyang Qian, Li Dan and the other girls. They were very surprised to see Jiang Xiu appear in school unscathed. Ouyang Qian said, "Why didn't the 4 young masters teach him a lesson?" Just now, they were still saying that Jiang Xiu would definitely be dealt with very badly. Li Dan was very confused. Yeah, he hit the 4 young masters. There's no reason for the 4 young masters to not teach him a lesson. Cheng Lingsu didn't say anything. Yesterday, she went home with Sun Xiaohong. When Sun Xiaohong got home, the first thing she did was call Lin Yueling to cancel the engagement. However, Lin Yueling didn't agree no matter what. The two even quarreled over the phone. She didn't take out the agreement to cancel the engagement. It seemed that the matter wouldn't be resolved so easily. After all, the elders of the Jiang family didn't agree. She said casually, "Maybe the 4 young masters were scared by the supernatural incident yesterday." Ouyang Qian nodded and said, "That's really good for this kid. They can't forget that they were beaten up. When they come back to their senses, they'll probably still find trouble with Jiang Xiu." She seemed to be very unwilling. At this time, Yu Wenchen's group also came. Their group of animals almost dominated the most beautiful girls in the second high school. Yu Wenchen saw Jiang Xiu in the distance and also frowned. "Young Master Yi, this guy is actually fine." "That's strange," Ouyang Qian said. "How about you remind young Master Bai? His front teeth were knocked out. How could he forget about this matter?" Yu Wenchen nodded. However, in the next few days, Jiang Xiu lived a leisurely life in school. He didn't see young Master Bai come to find trouble with him. Ouyang Qian and the other girls couldn't help but ask, "Young Master Yi, why is there no movement from young Master Bai?" Yu Wenchen was also puzzled and said, "I mentioned it to young Master Bai. He just grunted and said he knew." On Sunday afternoon, Lin Yueling called Jiang Xiu and asked him to go home. He hadn't gone back in this life yet. Speaking of which, he missed them quite a bit. Jiang Xiu's family was in the suburbs of Jiang City, a place called Yunhu Town. Back then, Jiang Xiu's family had nothing. They couldn't stay in Jiang City anymore, so they settled down in Yunhu Town. Times developed very quickly. After more than 10 years, the original Yunhu Town had become Yunhu District. It no longer looked like a town but a proper city. However, it was still a town after all. There were still many old streets inside. Jiang Xiu's family was so unlucky that they didn't get demolished. Now the family was still on the old street. However, the old street was still quite crowded. When they got out of the car and set foot on the old street, scenes of the past floated in their minds. A feeling of missing family surged in their hearts. From afar, they saw their family's fruit stall. It was really small. It was only 4 or 5 square meters. Some fruits were placed outside. There was a woman talking to his mother. Jiang Xiu still remembered this woman. She was the owner of the fruit stall. Every time she appeared, it was a nightmare for Jiang Xiu. This was because every time this woman came, the atmosphere at home would become very depressing. His father would hide on the balcony and not speak. His mother would silently do the housework because the rent had increased again. Yueling, I know your family is in a difficult situation. However, what rent doesn't increase now? The 800 yuan I rented for you is too little. Look at this street. Who else can afford so little? Lin Yueling was in her 40s. Her facial features were very delicate. However, her face was already covered in wrinkles. No matter how beautiful a person was, they couldn't withstand a miserable fate. However, even if she was tortured by fate, her temperament was completely incomparable to that of a commoner. However, at this time, there was an indescribable bitterness on her face. Sister Lin, you know that business hasn't been good recently. My son is going to take the college entrance examination again. Our family can't take it anymore. Can you just give us a year? The rent will increase next year. Sister Lin's eyes widened. Increase next year? Are you kidding? How much is it going to cost this year? A difference of 200 yuan a month. That's more than 2,000 yuan a year. Lin Yueling said. Sister Lin. Sister Lin interrupted her. Who doesn't have difficulties? I'm a business, not a charity. If you think the rent is too expensive, then don't rent it. Go to the end of the street. It's cheaper there. It's only 500 yuan a month. The fruit stall relied on the flow of people. There was no one at the end of the street. Moreover, Jiang Xiu's family's fruit stall could still hold on. Who would dare to change? If business wasn't good, the whole family would have to eat northwest wind. Lin Yueling said. Sister Lin, I'm begging you. This year, my son really needs to go to school. Sister Lin said. Forget it. Your son doesn't have any future prospects. I heard that he's at the bottom of the school. You're still counting on him to get into university and change his fate? I advise you to save the money. Mum. Suddenly a voice sounded. Lin Yueling looked over. Who else could it be but Jiang Xiu? Chapter 48. When Lin Yueling saw her son, she squeezed out a smile, but there was some awkwardness underneath. She said, Son, you're back. Quick, greet her. To the Jiang family, Auntie Lin was their breadwinner. Usually, when she passed by a fruit stall, the Jiang family would not only take fruits for free, but they also had to be respectful, afraid that they would anger her and cut off their family's livelihood. Jiang Xiu's eyes swept over. That arrogance had been cultivated for more than 3,000 years. How could he lower his head to a mere commoner? What a joke. Seeing her son's attitude, Lin Yueling thought that he must have heard Auntie Lin's words. She changed the topic and said, There's a lot of pressure in school now. Auntie Lin did not buy it, and was instantly displeased. Yueling, it's not that I want to nag at you, but your son is still studying. Don't study until he becomes stupid. You should stop studying. Go to a construction site to move bricks, or be a hotel attendant. Which one isn't better than what you are now? You're just losing money. These words were really harsh. Lin Yueling only had this one son, and she treated him like a treasure. Being humiliated like this made the hair on her face stand up, and her face turn red. But she still smiled and said, The child is still young and doesn't know any better. Auntie Lin said, Still young? He'll be 18 next year. What the hell? Her face was full of disdain as she glanced at Jiang Xiu with contempt. She had a son who was about the same age as Jiang Xiao. She said that her son was much better than Jiang Xiao and that her son could get into first high school, while Jiang Xiao could not even get into Yinhu High School. In the end, the Jiang family was awesome. Jiang Yi went to the Cheng family, and Jiang Xiao was directly admitted to the best second high school in Jiang City. Her son, on the other hand, could not even get into Yinhu High School. He even spent money to get in. Let me tell you, the rent is not negotiable. Increase it by 300. Lin Yueling said in a hoarse voice. Didn't you say it was 200? 200 yuan was already beyond the limit of Jiang Xiao's family. Jiang Xiao's monthly living expenses were only 200 yuan. If he could have a few hundred yuan more, he would not have only given 200 yuan. Auntie Lin said. It's too much, so I'm raising it by 400. How about it? Do you want to rent it or not? I have no obligation to raise your son. Lin Yueling said. Son, you go home first. An increase of 400 yuan was unacceptable. In the past, the monthly rent was only 800 yuan. Now that it was increased by 400 yuan, it would be 1,200 yuan a month. The whole family would have to go hungry. She had to beg Auntie Lin to not increase it by so much. Jiang Xiao still remembered that in his previous life, his mother had been forced to kneel and beg this woman. The dignified Miss Lin of the Lin family, the daughter of a rich family, had knelt down to this shrew for the sake of Jiang Xiao and his father. Thinking of this, Jiang Xiao felt as if his heart was being stabbed by a knife. Jiang Xiao said, Mom, this won't do. We'll move. Lin Yueling's eyes widened. She was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat. What was this silly son saying? Their whole family depended on this fruit stall. If they moved, what would happen if there was no business? Would they starve to death on the streets? Moreover, Jiang Xiao was still in high school and would be going to university next year. Lin Yueling could suffer, but she could not risk her son's future. Auntie Lin said, Good, that's great. Then you guys can move. I can't wait. Lin Yueling panicked. She was so nervous that cold sweat broke out on her forehead. Brat, what nonsense are you saying? Auntie Lin has taken care of our family all these years. Hurry up and go home. Take care? It was more like bullying. Auntie Lin knew that Jiang Xiao's family was poor. She knew that Jiang Xiao's family would not dare to move out. The rent for a fruit stall that was less than 4 square meters had risen from $100 to $800. Now, it was going to rise to $12,000. Places that were bigger and better than this place did not have such high rents. Jiang Xiao said, Mom, I have money. I'll buy you an apartment. Lin Yueling was so anxious that she wanted to vomit blood. What was with the act? Did he think that he could scare Auntie Lin away? That was impossible. Auntie Lin had wanted to force them out for a long time. If they really moved out, it would be as she wished. What nonsense are you saying? Hurry up and go in. Mother's tone was very strict. She even reached out to push Jiang Xiao. Mom, I'm really rich. Not only was he rich, but he was very rich. He had $1 million in his pocket, and a company that was worth $2 billion. He owned 70% of the shares. Spiritual Cultivation was a billionaire. Don't say any more, Auntie Lin said. Good, very good. You still dare to play this game with me. If your family had money, pigs could fly. A poor kid like you dares to play with me. Look at you. I can tell that you're going to be poor your whole life. Aren't you rich? Move out. Clap, clap, clap. Auntie Lin even clapped her hands and said, Everyone, Yueling's son is doing well. Come and see. He said that he's going to buy a shop for his family. The neighbors saw that there was a commotion and came over. They did not mind watching the show. Really? Isn't Minor Repairs still in school? Where would he have the money to buy a shop? He's just bragging. That's right. Auntie Lin was like a hen ready to fight. The more people there were, the more she got into it. Everyone, I'm not forcing Yueling's family. Her son has already said that he doesn't want to rent anymore. He wants to buy one for his mother. Don't say that he's not loyal. He doesn't know how to study, but he's already bragging. If anyone takes a fancy to my shop, I'll immediately sublet it. For the first 3 months, the electricity and water will be on me. Someone at the side immediately got excited. The electricity and water cost 100 to 200 yuan a month. She even got a shop that was causing trouble. Although Jiang Xiu's fruit stall did not make much money, it still supported his family. Many people were jealous. Auntie Lin, you're a woman of your word. I'm a woman of my word. Lin Yueling panicked and said hurriedly, Auntie Lin, my son is still young and doesn't know any better. Don't lower yourself to his level. Didn't you say that the rent will be increased? Increase will increase it. Auntie Lin said, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? Do I still dare to rent to your family? Listen to your tone. I'm almost scared to death. You're going to buy an entire house. That's really scary. I can't afford to serve a rich family like yours. What if he wants to kill me with money? Lin Yueling said. Auntie Lin, calm down, calm down. Auntie Lin said, I wouldn't dare. Your son is so powerful. What if he wants to kill me with money? Saliva Yong, do you want my shop? The middle-aged man who had just spoken was overjoyed. Yes, why wouldn't I? Auntie Lin, let's talk in my house. This Saliva Yong was the owner of a noodle shop. Auntie Lin twisted her fat body and walked over. Lin Yueling was really panicking now. She hurriedly chased after her and said, Auntie Lin, the Jiang family is in trouble now. The people on the side of the road were gloating. Yueling's son is too stupid. He actually argued with the landlady. Isn't he courting death? If you don't have money, don't pretend to be rich. Auntie Lin followed Saliva Yong into the shop. When she saw Lin Yueling chasing after her, she said with disdain, Don't waste your breath. I can't afford to serve a tenant like you. Lin Yueling begged. Auntie Lin, we've been guests for more than 10 years. We've always gotten along well. Minor repairs is too young. I'm just worried about my family's situation. Please don't lower yourself to his level. I apologize to you here. Don't refuse to rent the shop to me. Her face that had been wasted by time was filled with endless desolation. The helplessness in her eyes was far from what the common people could imagine. Auntie Lin, please rent the shop to us again. Her eyes glistened with tears. No one knew the hardships she had suffered all these years. After Jiang Yi was released from prison, his entire person changed. He was unable to recover from the setback and lived like mud. Jiang Xiu was still young. The entire family depended on her alone. However, she stubbornly refused to cry. Only the begging in her eyes grew stronger. I beg you. Auntie Lin sneered. Beg me? Sure, get your awesome son to kneel down and apologize to me. Otherwise, don't even think about renting my shop. Ah. Lin Yueling's eyes suddenly shrank. Jiang Xiu was her everything. How could she bear to let him suffer like this? Auntie Lin, the child is young, but his pride is strong. How about I apologize to you on his behalf? When she said this, her voice trembled. It was as if her entire soul had been hollowed out. Lin Yueling, oh Lin Yueling. She felt as if she didn't recognize herself anymore. Once upon a time, the proud princess of the Lin Yueling had to kneel down to a common shrew for 5 buckets of rice. Then kneel down. Lin Yueling's face immediately paled. She lowered her head, not daring to let others see her face. Her knees slowly bent. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.